All right, let's get into it. All right, today I got Mike Corley on. He is a shop owner and promoter. He's 6 months down in Florida to promote and do some NoPrep stuff from Canada. So first off, congrats on escaping Canada. Congrats on Trudeau leaving.
Oh, yeah.
Congrats across the board.
Yeah, it's been good news lately. Yeah, it's been rough up north for a bit, and actually this winter's been one of our worst winters. I think it's cold everywhere in the country now, so...
Like global warming is getting us good.
I don't know. If it's global warming, it would be cooler if it was a lot warmer than colder, but yeah, I come down here for 6 months of the year normally because it's Florida's racing season. That's predominantly what I do is NoPrep racing, so I come down here because the weather's good and we can keep racing up north. I mean, it's pretty much dead come November, so...
Now, do you guys normally NoPrep race up north more out of necessity because the tracks are... more on that level? Because, you know, in Florida, we prep race because there's prep race around.
Yeah. No, I think it's, well, to go back a few years, there wasn't really no prep racing in Canada until about a couple of years before the pandemic. So there was always street stuff. And I mean, we grew up in the, this will tell my age, but we grew up in the street racing era of back when all those movies came out.
Like all the early Fast and the Furious.
Yeah, all the early Fast and the Furious that really like kicked off the street stuff.
Was the first one like 2002 or something?
Yeah, and that was like the heyday. I remember when those movies came out, like literally every Friday, Saturday, Sunday night, they would be racing.
Yep.
And it was like, that was your weekend plan. Some people like would be going to the bars, we'd be going to the streets, and we'd be like, I'll see you there Friday. We'd stay there till Saturday morning.
So where in Canada exactly then?
I live in Ontario, so my actual residence is about half an hour from Toronto.
Okay.
Which is like the major hub.
Yeah.
I'd say one of the biggest cities in Canada.
Not out in the middle of nowhere as much.
Not as much. I do live out in the country, so it's somewhat like what you have here. Mm-hmm. We have a farm out there, so it's more quiet, but it's a half-hour drive to the hub, like the major city in
that's
Canada.
Not far then.
No, it's
that's
not
a good
bad
deal.
at all.
Because I know some Canadians and they live way out in the middle of nowhere type of
well,
stuff.
Well, Canada's a big country, right?
Yeah.
And it's always funny when you talk to people because they're like, "Oh, you're from Canada. Oh, you know, Jim Johnson or this person or that." I'm like, dude, Canada's a big place. Like, there's a lot of land around. So.
And it's mostly empty. That's the flip side. It's like, it's big, but it's mostly empty, and everybody kind of lives right around that, like...
Yeah, like Ontario is one of the biggest, like, busiest provinces, I'd say. Alberta, like... You have British Columbia, which has like a huge hub, and then you have Alberta, and then you have Ontario, Quebec. But in between there is like, if you drive across Canada, which I've done before, it's a lot of just open roads and like land, straight up land.
That's what I've always kind of felt, that most of it is all central around like the northeast of the U.S. Right around the Great Lakes is where like most
that's a majority
Canadians
of
live.
it, but you'll have Alberta's pretty big and British Columbia's pretty big too. They have big cities.
So then you guys started street racing. What were you racing?
Back then we were like 15, 16 years old. So you're looking at like my first race truck was the same truck I got now, but way less. S10, V6, back when the Extreme was like the badass S10 to own. Yeah. So I had a regular cab, Extreme, 5-speed manual. I did all the usual intake, exhaust.
Yep.
I think it was Hypertech chips back then, the plug-and-play deals. Tried to lose weight in the thing and all that stuff. But back then we thought we were fast. I mean, we were racing the Dakota RTs. Like, we tried to stick truck on truck. But you'd go to the races and guys were unloading, full chassis cars and stuff out of trailers and doing heads up. Oh yeah, they were doing heads up races for big money. So it was cool back then because it didn't seem, I mean, it wasn't so, I don't know, mainstream, I'd say. So the cops didn't really bother you too much. Like it didn't, but then after those movies, our local police ended up buying a helicopter. And once the helicopter came out, it was a game changer.
Really?
Now you'd be going out on Friday night and everyone's looking in the sky going, just waiting for that spotlight to like...
Yeah, they bring a helicopter out for friggin' S10s with...
For everything. Well, it wouldn't only be us. I mean, it was all grudge racing back then. It wasn't organized like they do now where it's like a shootout style. this was literally, I would call you on Friday night and say, listen, I've seen your truck around, whatever. Let's do it for $500.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it would just be you and me. There was no, and we'd just jump into whatever street was active that night and say, oh, I'll meet you here at 11 o'clock at night, and we'll line it up. It was all grudge racing.
Were you
back
guys
then.
using some forums at the time too? Because that was
Oh, yeah. Forums were huge.
that was the thing around here. I know was like streetfire.net was like how everybody raced. It was before my time, but that was the go-to.
Yeah. You'd see a lot of people, like, you would watch people, they'd wander around because everyone would have their cars there. It was almost like a little bit of a car show. Or guys would meet at the local, like, they used to fill the Home Depot parking lot. Or we have Rona. Do you guys have Rona here?
No.
Okay, similar to Home Depot, same idea. So it's a big parking lot, and everyone would kind of meet there.
Yep.
And then you'd walk around and you'd look at shit and be like, hey, man, you want to go for $250 or whatever? And you'd go meet at the spot like everyone else, and you'd run your little grudge race. And
Yeah.
it was fun. It was a lot of fun. I mean, we had a great time back then, but then, like I said, they got the helicopter. And
Well, and
after that, it was,
I think cars being slower probably helped
oh, yeah.
because
it was.
now it's so tough to, these cars have really no business being on the street.
I think it
racing.
was, yeah, I think it was a lot safer back then, too, because, like you said, you're racing a car that really, it would be hard to get out of hand with it.
Yeah.
You thought at the time it was fast, but, like, I have a Dakota RT down here that I just drive around for fun.
Mm-hmm.
That thing is slow as shit. Like, literally the slow, I have to floor it to get on the highway here on 75 because
Yeah.
everybody's flying, and I'm like, come on, come on. But back then it was, it was a badass truck.
Yeah, now like basic stuff is, 1,000 horsepower.
Yeah,
It's
like bolt-on street car. I've always been a big street car guy, and I love that kind of stuff. But yeah, now with technology, stuff is crazy. Like
Yeah.
we build back home a lot of Mopar stuff. We build Jeeps and shit that are 1,000 horsepower, 1,300 horsepower, and they're daily driven. Like
Yeah.
throw your family in there and go wherever, and it's just crazy how fast you can make things now.
Yeah, there's a ton of those Jeep, what is it? The blanking on like the Grand
Trackhawk?
Cherokees and even the Jeep Wranglers that have
Yeah.
way more horsepower than they should.
Oh yeah,
Because those things are terrifying at stock horsepower.
oh yeah. And now they put the 392 in it.
Yeah, they get speed wobble and death wobble and all kinds of stupid stuff at V6 stock horsepower.
Yeah,
It's really
It's
not.
true.
It's really not a good move to make them more powerful.
But now everything's like that. I mean, if you're not making 4 digits in your street car, then
Yeah.
you're slow. Like, that's just the bar now.
Yeah.
Because I remember, okay, my first fast car, what I thought was fast, and it was I bought an '03 Cobra, anniversary edition. Love those cars. Still love those cars. The market for them's crazy, but '03 Cobra, anniversary edition, bone stock. I drove 2.5 hours, picked it up, and I was like, this thing, jumping out of like an S10 into that, it was like mind-blowing. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
The blower noise and everything.
Oh, yeah, I love that car.
It sounded like you're going 200 miles an hour.
Oh, yeah, with that thing screaming down the road, and everyone would stop and like stare at you as you went
Yeah.
by. But I put a Whipple in that thing, and it made like 660 horsepower. And at that time, there was nobody that was touching that car. I would race people all over the place, and it was like, it was a badass unit. Now, I mean, you can build a Coyote motor that'll destroy that thing
Oh, yeah.
easily.
Unopened,
Yeah, like it's crazy.
put a
It's
blower
just-
on it,
yeah.
put a supercharger on it, and the Mustangs are stupid. But even like a stock Hellcat is pretty crazy and with a pulley.
Just bolt-ons.
Yeah.
That's what I tell people. Like, there's these kids now that bring their cars to my shop, and younger guys, and I'm like, part of me is like, I don't know if you're ready for this, because it's a lot of car.
Yeah.
Like, this is some of their first cars. Like, I kind of did you work your way up. So we started with slow stuff, something faster, and cars progressively got faster. These guys jump in these things, and they come, and they're like, I want to make 1,300 horsepower. I'm like, do you know what 1,300 horsepower is?
Yeah. You almost need to look at like a data log of like 2 weeks of ownership and see how
Yeah.
many times they even went 100% throttle.
No, I know. I'm
'Cause
like,
it's
that's
like-
scary shit. Like, that's a lot of horsepower. But people throw these numbers now like
Yeah.
it's nothing. It's like, oh, my car's 1,300 horsepower. It's like, back in the day, that was a Pro Mod.
It's
Like,
a lot of horsepower still.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Unfortunately, they weigh 4,200 pounds. But, like I'm saying, I bet these people don't even go wide open throttle with the 707 horsepower that they got. They're
No.
probably hardly
Well,
even wide
it
open.
roasts the tires. Like they don't quite fathom the idea that yes, you can spend a lot of money on the motor and make tons of horsepower, but the car will never put it down.
Yeah.
That's why you don't see a lot of those cars in NoPrep racing. The Hellcat platform is a very hard platform to put the power down on the street, let's say, or on a shittier surface. You see a lot of fast ones at the track.
Ish.
Okay, for what they are.
Ish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
you
like,
don't see them in NoPrep racing. Like I never see, and I try to tell my customers to come up, but it's true. You watch the car, they can't leave. They can't leave off the line. They really struggle unless they're willing to put in the time and money to get the suspension right. It's a hard platform.
and even that is like you hardly see them do anything very impressive numbers wise.
Not really, but
They're cool cars, and I think they're a great. I think in the next 5 years they're going to be a really good value for what you get.
Yeah.
Like a blower, 700 horsepower street car.
but that's what I mean. If someone just wants to have like something that they can say, "Hey, I make 1,000 horsepower," Hellcat's the best way to do it.
it is.
Because you can bring that car to me. We can put in injectors, a pulley, like upper, lower, E85, and you're pretty much there.
Yeah, still payments and all.
Yeah, you still got the payments, and
Yeah.
you can brag to your friends, hey, and they do great burnouts. I mean, I see it all the time.
Well, that's always my joke. I have a CTSV,
Yeah.
and it's same deal. It's pretty much like a predecessor to like the Hellcat kind of stuff, whereas like automatic, big luxury car ish, and
Yeah.
blower and all that nonsense. It's kind of the same lineage almost. And that car, it's literally the only time, like the only thing I really do with it is like burnouts,
Yeah.
just because like you get
It's
to
fun.
a stoplight,
Yeah.
and it's fun. Like it'll roast the tires off, and then you get another $800 set of tires.
Yeah.
It's just that's literally all it really is. Purpose.
I've seen some fast CTSVs, but again, it's where do you draw the line? And this is the problem I've always had is you want something, and I have customers with the same mindset. They're like, oh, I want this thing to be a car I can drive from Canada to Florida, but I also want it to be 1,800 horsepower. And it's like, you can't do that.
Yeah.
There is a definitive line of where it's just going to be too much. It's too much. There's always a balance between a street car and a race car. And you get to that point where you start overlapping into race car, and then it's not going to be nice. Like, I joke around all the time that my S10 is a street car because it's got a 15-gallon cell, full cooling alternator. We go on all the true street cruises at all these events. I mean, we could do Sick Week with it.
Yeah.
Would I want to? No, it's horrible. You're sitting on Kirkies. The thing rides like an absolute shopping cart. So you're going down the road, you're hearing every last shake, rattle, everything is rattling. Like, it can be a street car, but I mean, there's that stage where you just go too far, a race car, and it's still streetable, yes, but it's not a street car anymore.
Yeah, well, like I'm gearing up to do Sick Week in my Camaro, and that's not me taking a street car and going racing with it. That's me taking a race car
Yeah, and putting it on the street.
and making the street cruise.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. But some people, they watch all this stuff on YouTube, right? YouTube's a huge thing now. So they see these guys, and they're like, oh, my God, this guy drives his,
Yeah.
It's 2,000 horsepower. He drives it. I see videos of him driving it on the street. Yeah. Guy's probably driving it from his house to the gas station and back. He's not taking his family in that car and going for like a drive.
Well, every time you see him drive it, he posts it, and that's it.
Yeah.
He doesn't you don't just see him driving it.
No.
And not filming it or something like that. It's like a whole thing. Like I don't just drive my cars on the street because I don't get any joy out of it. If I'm like, white knuckle in the wheel,
Yeah, it's not fun.
manhandling it, like it doesn't
No
have
power steering, no
Yeah.
AC, all these things, no radio.
Climbing
like-
out of a cage. I always laugh at
Yeah.
all my friends that were like, I drive it all the time. I'm like, why?
Well, that's the argument we get, even promoting these races and stuff. Guys will show up and they go, dude, it's my daily driver. And I'm like, there is no way. You see them crawl out of this little aluminum seat.
Yeah.
It doesn't even have the cover on it. No passenger seat, full cage. Oh, I drive it to work every day. I go, dude, you may drive it to work every day? What, 10 minutes up the street and back? That's fine. Nobody wants to drive this car every day. I'm sorry, I don't believe you.
Yeah.
So it's not a daily driver.
If you
can
really
tell
do
me
drive it
whatever
every day,
you want. Yeah, like
it's impressive.
Yeah.
I have a few friends that drive their cars pretty frequently, and I'm always like, man, I don't know how you do it. Like it just doesn't seem like enjoyable to me.
No, it wouldn't be enjoyable.
As much as I love my race car.
Yeah, exactly. They have a purpose.
Yeah, I bring it to the track and I race it, and then as soon as I can get out of it, that's my plan, is to get out of it.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's not comfortable.
No, they're not. I mean, we built them for a purpose, right? They're to go as fast as you can go.
Yeah.
In that chassis or that platform, and that's why we build them.
I just don't like the wear and tear. Like, it's just added stress to every heim joint, to every bushing. It's just like, why the heck?
And even like my truck has a power glide. Driving a power glide on a street cruise in high gear, and you're just like, and it's just lugging the thing down, and I'm like, the truck hates its life right now. Let's just get this cruise done so we can get back to racing.
Well, that'll be me in sick week. I'm power gliding my Camaro.
Yeah, that's gonna be fun.
Yeah, it's a 373 gear, so
yeah.
I have a 350 sitting on the floor, and I'm like, is it worth putting in the 350?
I got a 355 in mine. It did help a little bit, but yeah, they're just not.
No.
You just want to get it over with. It's like, okay, I'm doing it. Car is capable. So that's the thing. People, like, my truck is capable of doing. I can drive wherever. But I don't want to really drive 2.5 hours or 3 hours in it.
No, no,
it's not fun.
You're just like, oh, please, somebody take a picture of me so I can get out of this thing. And
let's just get back to the track and keep racing. That's the fun part, right?
So you have a shop up there. What do you normally?
I have a shop. I actually work out of my house, so it's a smaller shop. I did landscape construction for a long time. So I have a landscape business as well that runs. So that's why I've always been able to come down here for the 6 months.
Yep.
Because our busy season was the summer, and then come winter, a couple guys plowing snow or whatever, but they were fine to do that. It would let me take off and come down here. So we started the shop more because we were building cars kind of on the side. And then, again, once COVID came, we weren't able to work because of all the COVID stuff. And I had all these cars backed up of people. They were like, hey, man, I'm home now for a couple months. Do you mind taking my car and building it for me and this and that? And we were doing it already. And I said, you know what, let's carry on the ball with this and try to grow this side of things. So we slowed down a little now with the landscaping, concentrated more on the shop. So yeah, we build a lot of third gen Mopar stuff because there was kind of a hole in the market in Canada where we were at for that. We had our Trackhawk, which at one point was the world's fastest back before. Now they're into twin turbos, but we were like stock blower, built engine, nitrous combo, and it ran 920s at 156 back then, which was the world record for a little while. So that kind of gave us the notoriety in the Mopar stuff. And I like the Hellcat platform. Yeah. I really like the Hemi, third-gen Hemi stuff.
Those things were impressive. Everything was very beefy on it from from what I saw on it. They went above what they needed on the drivetrain on those, which was cool.
Yeah, the Trackhawk, I first bought, my initial plan was do something crazy out of the box. I was just going to buy a regular Grand Cherokee SRT, which had the 6.4. And then I was looking at it more, and I'm like, actually, for the value you got to upgrade to a Trackhawk, it made more sense to get the Trackhawk because you got better rear end, better transmission, transfer case. Yep. And in the beginning, you know how everything starts. You're like, okay, I'm just going to pulley it, put some injectors on it, we'll make 800 horsepower badass. And it was. But to me, the sleeper idea with these Jeeps, because back when the Trackhawk came out, people knew of them, but not really. So I could go around and I'd pull up beside someone's Corvette at the light or whatever, and, it's all cam, sounds awesome. And I'd be like, the Corvette isn't going to leave on a dig. So I go, hey, you want to, run light to light or whatever if it's not busy around, and we'd do it for fun. And it was awesome just to see you'd get to the next set of lights, and the guy's like, dude, what is that? Yeah. It's a Jeep Cherokee.
Well, even when you think about the SRT aids, they weren't all that crazy impressive, and then the jump to the Trackhawk was a huge leap in impressiveness.
Yeah, and horsepower, and those things from an actual dig or on any kind of surface, because of the sheer weight, they're 5,400 pounds. People don't believe it, but I've scaled it. I raced it a couple times. You may or may not have seen it at Bradenton. We went to the streetcar takeovers and stuff. It was a camouflaged Jeep.
Oh yeah.
So I put it on the scales there at Bradenton, and I'm like, I had to take a picture because everyone's like, you're full of shit. That thing doesn't weigh that much, this and that. I'm like, it weighs that much, like
Yeah.
to the T.
Well, it's all-wheel drive, big wheels,
Everything, like
full
air-conditioned
interior.
seats. And even at Bradenton, I used to laugh at guys because I see them, which is the guy I laughed at is now me, sitting in the car just sweating, right? You just see, like, it's super hot. I got the air-conditioned seat on. I'm sitting in there listening to the radio. I'm like, oh, this is great. So that's what I mean by the streetcar stuff. I really like it. But wind us back a little bit. The Jeep kind of gave us that notoriety in the third-gen platform. And then from there, now we've done pretty much all the Trackhawks in Ontario, Canada-wide. I've had guys send them from Alberta, New York. We just kind of figured out that sauce, I guess you'd call it, to make them fast.
Yeah.
And keep them still streetable. Because now they have Jeeps that are faster than ours. But you see them, they break down a lot. Like, they've taken them, like I said, there's that kind of middle point where it's still streetcar, and then you go further than streetcar. Now you're looking at ones that are tin can, they're gutted on the inside. They put, Kirkies in it. To me, that's more now you've leaned over the race car side.
Well, I think, I say this a lot, whereas these business owners that build these cars, they really need to have like these honest conversations with some of these customers, because I see them go all out on a car and then they sell it so soon because
because it's not streetable.
It wasn't
anymore.
what they
don't
wanted.
like it.
Yeah, and then that kind of is on the business owner a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Where like you weren't honest with what they were going to get in the outcome.
Well, that's what I try to explain to customers too. That's why I use that reference, because I took my Jeep as far as I could and it was right there on race car.
Yeah.
Like any further than that, and that's why people are like, why are you going to sell the Jeep now? And I'm like, because I'd like to go into race car. I did the street car. We took this Jeep as far as it'll go as a street car, but the next step would have been shaving weight, taking everything out of it. Like, there was no more I could do other than make it now full race car, and I didn't want to destroy the thing. It was a beautiful Jeep. We ended up selling it to another guy.
Carbon doors and a carbon.
Yeah, like you get to that point now, and that's what I explain to them too, because guys will come in and they're like, oh, I want, a badass motor, big cam, big this, big that. I said, we can do all that. That's absolutely not a problem.
Yeah.
But you're going to sacrifice some things. You can't expect that same thing to run like it did when you brought it here. Because this is a factory vehicle, and now we're changing it over to this. Everything is different. So, it's going to have choppy cam. When you sit at the lights, things going to shake a little. The transmission, we have to work with transmission tuning. Converters, like, you have to change things now because the motor's going to try to pull through the converter. And you're going to sit there at the lights, and they do. I said, if you're good with that, we'll do it. But you need to know that it's not going to be the same as it was. You can't expect 500 more horsepower to act like factory.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Well, even the simplest thing of like, this is the limit of like a street tire too. So like, my CTSV is at the limit of like its streetable tire, where if you get caught in the rain, you're not going to die.
Yeah.
If it was any more horsepower, it'd have to be on like a drag radial
All the time.
And then you that simple next step of being on a permanent drag radial takes away a lot of like.
Oh yeah, it limits you, right?
Yeah, I can't just go drive it and like now it's
not only that. If you take your family and stuff like that, it's dangerous.
Yeah,
like, it is what it is.
And same with the Trackhawk stuff. The second you have to put it on like a real
like a drag
race tire all the
Yeah.
time, or a smaller brakes or something like that to try to compensate, you're just immediately ruining what you bought the car for.
Yeah, and I do see that with some customers. They're like, man, it's a little aggressive. That's what they say. And I'm like, we had this talk.
Yeah.
You wanted a little aggressive. Now here we are. This is what I meant when I said this thing's, it's going to be different. It's not the same. But now you're stepping it into a new level. So some people get it and they're good with it. Other people, I mean, I could see if you haven't been, I guess, if you haven't been in this game for a long time, then you don't quite understand it. Some of them are new to this. So like I said, this may be their first fast thing they've ever owned. And they're like, oh, I want it to be the most badass so they can brag to their friends and this and that.
Yeah.
And that's cool. But then they realize once you get into this that there are some things that you got to be willing to sacrifice.
Yeah, you can't, have your cake and eat it too, as they say.
It's tough, right?
Give and take. But so what do you guys do about emission stuff?
Well, currently we used to have strict emissions laws where you used to have to dyno the vehicles and then print out, just like I guess California has similar.
Yeah, the carb stuff.
Yeah, so you'd have to put on a dyno, they put a sniffer in, and you had to pass all these tests. The last government actually abolished it because people were just tired of, like, you would buy a brand new car and then have to go take it for emissions. And the thing would be like zero emissions. You know, with the new emissions equipment, stuff is much cleaner, as they say. So people are like, why am I spending $140 every year to do these e-tests on this shit? Anyway, they abolished it, so now we get around it. But when I say we get around it, it's still illegal. So you may not have to do the test, but if you get pulled over by a cop because you've got open headers, they're still going to tow the vehicle. Like, it's still a law. The law hasn't changed. You just don't have to go do those tests. So certain vehicles, I mean, we advise them off-road use only. I mean, it is what it is. The parts you've decided on, say right on them, off-road use only. So it's now on your risk. It's nothing. You've decided to do this. So
yeah, much of the U.S. is like that, where it's, you know, it's not legal, but they don't mess with you.
Well, yeah, I see down here, I see some cars and I'm like, that would definitely not fly back home.
Is there any yearly safety inspection? Like,
there is safety inspections when you buy and sell vehicles.
Okay.
So if I buy, like, even if I buy a vehicle down here and I bring it back home, we have to pay all the taxes, of course, because our government is very good at taxing the shit out of us. So we pay taxes, and then, you'd have to take it. And there's some different rules between U.S. and Canada, so you have to make your car Canadian compliant. There's a bunch of different stuff.
So like the headlights and stuff?
Yeah, like
and
daytime
like
running lights, and there's certain little things. Something, even the speedo, I think, has to be able to be converted to kilometers because we're in kilometers, right?
Yeah.
So everything here is mile per hour. But I mean, any newer vehicle like my dually out there, you can switch it back and forth.
Yep.
A lot of the digital stuff you can do that, but the older cars you can't. So then you'd have to change the inlay on the actual dash. But that's when you would safety a vehicle, and even inner country, like if I buy a vehicle locally, you have to get a safety for it before you get plates for it. But then after that, I mean, you don't have to do it until...
Because even in New York, when I lived there, it was yearly inspection. You had to go in, it was yearly visual, and they inspected everything to make sure it was all compliant. If you had a check engine light on, it doesn't pass. Like,
yeah, see, that's kind of where they'd catch you on the emission stuff there. But, no, it's just normally when you're buying or selling.
That's nice. That's crazy, because I've always imagined they were more strict than many of the states.
They were. I mean, things have changed a little bit. It's kind of, it depends on the government we have, honestly. Like, the government can change to the next government and they'll implement all this new stuff and everyone freaks out for a while and changes government and they get rid of that stuff. Like, it's always moving around. It's constantly moving. So it's just where we are at this year. We'll see how it is next year, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, next year will probably change a good amount because a whole new government
we might be the 51st state.
You might be. Puerto Rico's going to be pissed if you guys become the 51st state.
That's the new big thing back home. It's like everyone's torn. They're like, oh yeah, half the people are like, I'm down, and the other half are like, hell no.
Yeah, I don't know how that would go for the U.S.
It'll never happen.
That's adding a lot of.
Oh yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, I can't even fathom how that would work out.
No, I don't think it would ever work out. I think it's just, something to talk about. Everybody's getting fired up.
Yeah, it's a distraction, right?
Yeah, there's always a distraction.
Yeah, don't look at this. Look at Canada.
Don't look at what we're doing over here. Look at what we're talking about over there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, good old Canada. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how that all plays out because...
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is, we're the same. Like, people are like, oh, Canada, this and that. Okay, we may have different laws and we have a different system, like our healthcare and the tax system. We do things a little differently. But at the end of the day, like you and I, you being into cars, me being into cars, we all, like, it's all the same. We have the same stores up there. Everything's kind of blended into the same thing. So it used to be like when you'd cross into the U.S., you're like, oh my God, I can go to like Chick-fil-A, for example, right? Because we didn't have that. Now we have Chick-fil-A everywhere.
Yeah.
Like all these companies have integrated both sides of the border. So when you cross the border, like I race a lot in New York, it's the same thing. It doesn't feel like I left anything. Like, other than we get screwed on the dollar hard, outside of that, the exchange rate is horrendous right now. It's almost 50%.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it really hurts us. Like, when I talk to people about racing and stuff, and they're like, oh, you know, racing's really expensive. I'm like, you don't even know the half of it.
Yeah.
Because if you're paying $150 or $100 here for whatever part and intake, we're paying $150 at home. But you and I are earning the same money.
Yeah.
So as a mechanic or whatever, if you're earning $30 an hour here in the U.S., we're earning $30 Canadian. So we're paying 50% more for every single part that we get coming out of the U.S. because Canada really doesn't have a lot of stuff they make in-house. I'm constantly importing from different American companies for all the parts for myself, customers, or whatever. So yeah, it makes it very hard for us to stay competitive with you guys.
That seems like the worst part of it. It almost seems worth just switching over to the US dollar.
Yeah, like that would be the best thing. If we could all switch to the same currency,
yeah,
that would be amazing.
I mean, even when you go to Mexico, they use it.
This currency, like Canada versus US and it doesn't make sense. To me, I don't understand currency. I've never been in the financial sector.
Yeah.
So, but I know it hurts bad when I go to the bank and I'm like, okay, I'm going down to Florida. Can I exchange this 1,000 Canadian? And they're like, here you go, $500. I'm like, where'd the other 500 go?
Yeah.
It's gone. Like, and whatever, a carton of milk is the same price here as it is back home. So it's like, how did that? I just lost $500 just like that, like into the air. It didn't make sense.
Sounds like theft to me.
Yeah, it's horrible.
It sounds like taxation with a different.
Yeah, it's just cover. Like I don't understand how it works. I'm sure someone eventually in this thing is going to enlighten me in the chat, but it's tough for us because I could see and now I guess the new government's talking about all these tariffs and things. Again, I don't understand how that works, but it sounds horrible. Like things are going to get very expensive.
Yeah, well, it's going to become like a tariff battle.
Yeah, and that whenever countries are battling instead of working together, it's never good for the guys like you and I.
Yeah.
That's what I don't think a lot of people will understand. It's never going to work. Like, it sounds good when politicians tell you in their favor, oh, yeah, it's going to be great for us, this and that. We're going to, tariff this, tariff that. It sounds good. It does sound good. But I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think
we need your lumber and oil.
That's what I mean. We all have to work together.
Yeah.
So turning around and saying, oh, I'm going to, screw you for $20, you're going to just turn back to me and say, okay, well, whatever we buy from you, I'm going to screw you for $30.
Yeah.
And then it just goes back and forth.
It's like it's literally similar to the racing world where, instead of screwing people, we all work together like event. Yeah. Like you promote events. Yeah. You don't put them on top of other events.
No, I try always to try, because we all want, see, with me with this, and we can get into that if you want, how that all started.
Yeah.
But for me, like I said, I used to come down here. My family had a place outside of Naples, closer to Immokalee, for a long time. And I used to just come down here with my streetcar. I'd bring it down on a trailer, and I'd do all the stuff at Bradenton, like I said. Streetcar takeovers. We used to do TRCs,
Street Kings.
Street Kings all the time. Some bracket stuff because I just wasn't fast enough for the heads up stuff. Like whatever events, local events, Bradenton was normally the place. And then I found out about Immokalee, which was this small 8th mile track. I'm sure you're familiar.
Airport.
Yeah, airport deal. Very small, like locals kind of track. And I met a guy, and he's like, oh, you got to come out to Immokalee. And I'm like, okay, cool, because I love street stuff. And I mean, I partook in some of the roll racing they did down here because that's all I could find. Mm-hmm. Nobody really wanted to do any kind of dig racing. I guess it just wasn't a thing. So I was like, this isn't really, I'm not a roll racer. I don't even understand how it works outside of a track system. Because a guy yelling out the window 1, 2, 3 on 2, he's already gone. Yep. And he's yelling 3 as you're like trying to downshift. It's like, who's the winner?
Yeah, you hear the car flooring it.
Yeah, and that's how it always would go. And I go, but who won? Like, I don't understand. It was always hard for me to understand because there's no flashlight, there's no like sanctioning. You don't pass this cone and you win.
Yeah.
So roll racing to me was like, this just seems like we're just screwing around.
That's what I was gonna say. If it's like a fun thing between friends, like,
But the problem was people wanted to do money on this
once
stuff.
there's money,
yeah, and
yeah.
I'm like, I'm not paying you $200 when you just left on one.
yeah,
Like you said, we were leaving on 3, and then you end up in these situations where you're going up and down the highway, and it's like, okay, this time it'll be on 3, and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I hate this. Like, it's not for me.
yeah. I just drove around 2 hours and I got one race.
Yeah, and it wasn't even a race. It was like some bullshit. Like,
Yeah, we both blipped the throttle.
yeah,
first.
it's just dumb. So I apologize to any of the roll racers out there. It's just, that is farthest from what I like doing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so I started going to Immokalee, and they do these little shootouts and stuff. So it was more grudge racing. So I thought that was really cool. And I said, but where's like NoPrep down here? Coming from up north, NoPrep was starting to be a big thing. And I was traveling like New York, Michigan, Indiana, all over these places doing NoPrep. But then I come down to Florida for the 6 months, and there was like, it was either you did frontside or you just kind of went to Immokalee and grudge race with people. But then once they saw you were fast, nobody wanted to race you, right? Or, you know, unless it was a guaranteed win, there wasn't. So I was like, what can we do down here to kind of bring what we do up north down here? So I talked to the track owners, and you can imagine how that first conversation goes. They go, what? You want to do what? I'm like, yeah, we're just going to scrape like the first 300 feet and then leave it. They're like, you're out of your fucking mind. We're not doing that. People are going to crash everywhere. This is stupid. Like, who would want to do that? And I'm like, listen, you don't understand. It'll be fine. People just need to learn how to tune their vehicles, or down tune, I guess you'd call it, like they do on the street. I mean, if we go out on the street right now, you can't run a 480 if you have a 480 car on bare asphalt. Like, it's not going to happen. So I was like, listen, please just give me an opportunity to do one. Let's try one. And you know what? We won't even scrape it. We just won't prep it. So we'll do the Friday, because they do a Friday night test and tune there. And then Saturdays is normally when they had their events. But this is a big bracket racetrack. When they do bracket races, that place is like Bradenton, honestly. It's sticky. Like, it's a good track.
Oh yeah, because they're all slick tire cars. They put down rubber.
Oh yeah, they put down rubber. They spray the track. They make, like, Immokalee has been known for, against, some people say it's not a good track. It's a very good track. When they prep it, it's amazing. So I said to them, please, like, let's just try this. We won't prep it that day, like that Friday. We'll let test and tune go all night, and then we'll just run the brushes over it the next day, and we'll run it like that. Okay, we don't have to scrape it. So, okay, we started NoPrep down here. First event, 16 cars maybe. Everyone's like, what is this? Like, this guy, what do you mean you're not, like, they'd come up and go, when are they spraying the track?
And when was this?
This would have been right around the COVID time.
Okay.
Well, this is our fifth.
So like 19, 20?
This is our 5th year, so 2020. Mm-hmm. I know they were doing something at Orlando, but I was hearing like mixed, you know, like, and then people were complaining. Anyway,
They're
I'm not
doing
going to.
backside stuff, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into all that, but so to me, there was no prep. So I said, okay, we're going to do this. First event, 16 cars. Went decent, you know. Small car count. I was trying to explain to people what we're doing. Like, we're trying to mimic the street. So we're mimicking the street at the track. We did instant green, so we took out the Pro Tree bulbs, still ran Pro Tree, but no yellows. So you had to leave on green. You didn't have to. You could gas, or
because there was no setting in that tree to do instant, or just easier to.
It was just easier to take out the bulbs at that time because, again, I wasn't a promoter. I was a racer. I was just coming. What I did was I looked at all the different races I went to, and I said, okay, let's combine. You know, I had to make a rule set. So I said, okay, up north, this is like small tire, 28, 10.5, non-W, steel roof and quarters. And then it's like, okay, well, we need other classes too for guys who are not small tire. So we true street class. And then we have a daily driver class for like those Hellcats and street cars and stuff like that. And then there's a lot of bracket racers. So I said, I'm going to make just a class. We'll call it Sandbagger because that's what bracket racing is. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Guys leave and then they slow right down and then they crash through the beams. So we call it the Sandbagger class and we capped it at 650. So it was basically a 650 index. For guys who maybe don't have a fast car, but I mean, 650 is a reasonable window for most cars nowadays. I mean,
and they
to run a 650 is, and they want a heads-up race. So, okay, first event, not so good. Second event, got a little more traction. People started to understand, hey, we're not going to put our cars in the wall. Because as you know, NoPrep has a very bad stigma, or did have a very bad stigma of, because you go on YouTube and you see crashes and this and that, and they're like, who the hell wants to sacrifice their car in NoPrep?
Yeah.
So it took a little while. It took us a couple of years to kind of get the ball rolling, to kind of get people's trust, I guess it was, because, you know, there's money involved. People don't like giving out money to a stranger. Me being Canadian made it even harder because this is a very local track. They don't know me from a hole in the wall. And they're like, we're not giving this guy our money. Like, we don't know him. Who is this guy? Where did he come from? Blah, blah, blah. So I had to build that relationship with the racers and the track to try to get this going. But it was fun because now we had something to look forward to. Like every time I came down here, I already looked forward to it because I was like, at least we're going to get 2 or 3 races of my style racing down here. And I can still go to Bradenton and do the frontside stuff. But I really wanted to get with the NoPrep stuff. And then from there, it just kept growing. There were a few events there because we started doing one event a month. And then I realized that too much of a good thing is not good.
Yeah, it was overloaded.
Yeah.
And especially for one promoter, you know, if there was other promoters and events, maybe they could get
but for the same place, like you would see people were like, okay, well, I'm not going to go to this event. I'm going to wait till his next one for the next event. So now you're getting like low car counts. We tried to open up more classes, but then the classes would have like 4 cars and 3 cars. And, you know, nothing's worse than having a class that's got 2 cars. It's like, okay, you want to do best 2 out of 3? Like how do you do that, right? Or 3 cars, like it's horrible.
I've seen people post their photo of winning a class.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, wait,
wasn't
you
there
were
only
the only
one
guy?
other? Oh, yeah, I've seen that too. Oh, I've seen many Facebook posts of guys holding trophies, and I'm like, I was there. You were the only one in that class.
Yeah, there was no car count there.
You just basically paid for the trophy.
You had a buy run.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, that's Facebook in general. But
It is funny when that happens.
Oh, yeah.
I like making fun of my friends that do that stuff because, you know, they're still going to post their win.
oh,
but
yeah,
it's
everyone's going to post a win.
It's just funny. It's like,
Yeah. Oh, no, it's definitely funny.
But you need that because you as a promoter, like a lot of promoters get discouraged after the first one didn't have 10,000 spectators and 500
Well, I
cars
was
sign up.
telling, we do this together with my buddy Terry. And I told Terry, I said, listen, man, if we can't get some more car counts, like, because I was putting in a ton of effort. I was going out getting trophies made, like, in the beginning was all out of my own pocket. And I'm like, this is costing me a lot of money out of my own pocket. But I really, I just wanted to have something that we could race where, like I said, when I came down for 6 months, I was looking forward to my own races because I was racing in them. So my only way of justifying getting paid back was, okay, we need to win our class. Like, at least if I win my class, I make back the money that I've invested into this event.
Yep.
That's how bad it was.
Yeah.
So, but you know, when you win your own events, what happens? You're a cheater. You made the rules around your vehicle.
Yeah.
I mean, I heard all kinds of stuff. I'm like, no, I was fast. And let me put this out there. I haven't won one of my events, and I've been trying for like 2 or 3 years now. This was like year 1 that I won. And the only reason I won is because we'd already been doing NoPrep up north. So I had the suspension settings. I knew how to get my truck down a shitty surface.
Yeah, you had like
where
first
these
move
guys were
advantage.
all still stuck in like sticky frontside stuff. So I had the advantage of a little more knowledge in the NoPrep world. I mean, moving forward to now, everybody has that knowledge, and everybody is significantly faster than they were year 1 when we did this. So we finally started getting a little more publicity, and we started doing a little bit bigger races. I was trying to be a better promoter, so I reached out to sponsors. I was trying to get more money to put on top to kind of, you know, get people more enticed to come out. And it started growing. People started talking to their friends. People started being able to go down the track and be able to go quickly down the track.
Yeah.
And then you have all this other stuff on YouTube. They're watching everyone up north. You know what I mean? You have all the Street Outlaws guys. NoPrep, you know, is the big thing now. Like,
It is. I mean, it absolutely is growing because, you know, prep racing, the cars are just so fast.
Yeah, it's very hard to compete.
It's very discouraging.
Yeah.
Because you see a car go 460s
Yeah,
out there.
and you're like, I'm a second out.
Yeah, you're like, well, I'm not going to do that. I
Yeah.
mean, like, not even like, oh, you know, you can't have that attitude, but it's like, no, like, I just don't have the motor and the budget and like you know what I mean?
And that's why I think NoPrep started, and that was the whole thing behind it, is it brought out those street racers, took them off the streets. Mm-hmm. Some of them. I mean, some of them still do that stuff. They do both. But the whole idea and the thing with all this, again, I think was just like Fast and the Furious kind of brought out the street racing, Street Outlaws brought out the NoPrep scene.
Yeah.
Because everyone wanted to race on the streets, but a lot of people didn't want the liability, which is understandable. I mean, it's more dangerous on the street. You can get your shit taken by the cops. It's not for everybody. Like, It's a risk. A lot of people have families. They're older now, you know. You don't want to be on the news. You know, your kid goes to school and they're like, hey, I saw your dad on the news getting arrested last night.
I just don't want to be racing at sunrise.
Well, that too.
If I can, like, that's the other thing. You see these street races, like at the pad out in
right into
Louisiana. They're racing, and the sun is rising, and they're still, they're like, okay, round 3. I'm like, nope, I'm out. Sorry.
I've always, I mean, I think that has a lot to do with people who are hosting the races, and it's just, yeah, cops know, like, they know what you're doing. Some places they'll leave you alone, other places they won't. They want to make an example of you. I'm not promoting street racing or saying that it's a good idea for anyone to do, but I mean, when you see a well-organized street race, it's different because they've taken everybody out into the middle of nowhere. Yeah. You know what I mean? There's no cars around, like that shit light-to-light stuff or being in like very highly populated areas. No, I don't condone that at all. I think you're an idiot. Like, you should not be street racing when there's people driving their families and stuff on that same road. You know what I mean?
9 o'clock at night.
Yeah, like, that's just dumb. Busy roads and stuff like that. No, I don't condone that at all. Now, the guys who actually organize a legitimate street race and they go out into, let's say, farm country, and it's just a bare road, you won't see a car all night. I mean, the drivers there understand their risk. Again, I'm not condoning anyone doing this because it's illegal, but there are smarter ways that people have done it.
I used to have a teacher that would say, like, you know, you go out into the middle of nowhere and you go as fast as you want. The only thing you might hit is a cow.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's
that's
different.
The risk.
I don't think anyone should ever put anyone else's life in jeopardy. You're responsible for yourself.
Yeah, no passenger.
Yeah,
leave the passenger out. This isn't for a spectator.
There should never be spectators past the starting line. There should never be anyone out there. So if you hurt yourself, I mean, you're a grown-ass man.
We've all seen 1320 videos of where they're out in, like, Arizona somewhere and there's not a
like out in the middle, exactly, out in the middle of the desert, all good.
Yeah,
but NoPrep racing was kind of designed to mimic that. So that's why you got guys like Limpy, you know, doing flashlight starts at all these NoPrep, even at the track, backside, front sides. They do the flashlight, they do the jump camera, just like it's basically mimicking the street. Mm-hmm. Now, mind you, this whole thing is kind of morphed into something a lot bigger than that, because I remember when we started NoPrep racing, you could have a legit street car, cheap built, you know, LS 5.3 LS junkyard shit, throw a China turbo on it, and you would you would be competitive. You could go out, like when we first started NoPrep racing with the Jeep, we were destroying everyone. And I don't mind sharing the time on that. Those were 6.0 passes, 590 passes maximum, like max effort.
Yeah.
Nowadays, a 6.0 on a NoPrep it's not going to take you into the finals most places. Now, you go backside of Orlando or something like that, that's real bad. Yes, it still will. There are certain places that the surface is the equalizer still, but these frontside NoPreps, like some of these tracks we go to and stuff like that, we're slowly starting to tip back into radial style cars. And a lot of people, like, this has kind of been the thing going back and forth in NoPrep. Everyone wants it to be gangster, you know, gangster, run what you brung, anything, outlaw, this and that. Problem is, companies now have designed suspension components that work very well. Guys have had now 5 to 7 years of suspension tuning and learning their cars and changing things and figuring things out, to the point now that if you go and buy like a super high-end chassis car that's custom built for this kind of stuff, it's very hard for the guy who has a street car or street style car to compete anymore because it's just you're 1,000 pounds difference, same power plants, same suspension, and they're both going. And on a front side, I mean, they can go fast. And
Same weight car, but you can put the weight wherever you want it.
Yeah. So yeah, if you want to both have a 3,000 pound car, this guy might be 3,000 just as it sits. This guy can put 1,000 in the back.
Yeah, exactly.
So I know that's been a big subject here, and I get it. I get a lot of shit for this because as a promoter, I've always looked at things from a racer's point of view more than a promotion. I understand you want the most badass cars because that's what brings people in. I've never really, I hate to say this, I've never really worried about spectators. I'm more worried about the racers having somewhere to race that they feel like, I feel like as a racer, if I go somewhere, okay, if I were to go to Snowbirds, let's say with my S10, I've lost. Like there is no chance in hell that I'm going to even make first round. So why would I go to that and give money, for someone else's program?
Yeah.
When I go to a race, I want to feel like I have an opportunity to win. That's the whole purpose of racing. And I'm not saying giving out participation awards and stuff like that. I'm just saying I feel like there's a way we can still keep that without totally destroying these classes. So, for example, bringing this around, a lot of places allow on front side chassis cars. You can pretty much, it's 28, 10.5, non-W, roof and quarters, fine. The problem is on a front side, even at Immokalee, when we scrape it a little bit, it comes around. And that guy who has that 2,600 pound car normally wins all the time. And I started thinking about it and I said, why can't we put those 2,600 pound cars all together so at least they're racing the same thing? Because it used to be that was a run what you brung car. And at some point they transitioned over. Everyone wants to be in 28, 10.5. Like everyone wants to be small tire. That's the big show. But there's a ton of small tire cars out there that can't afford to convert to chassis cars. More than there are chassis cars actually coming down into small tire. So I kind of wanted to keep that core group of small tire guys still racing because I feel like, and it's happened, we have yet to have a back-to-back winner at any of our events.
Really?
It has always been a different car.
Oh, that's cool.
And that to me signifies that our rule set is making it so anybody can win. So anybody who enters in our classes has an opportunity to win. I think the only class that's ever had the same winner a few times is stick shift, but it's like there's only a few, 4 or 5 cars.
Yeah,
so I mean his odds are pretty good.
Because it's like stick shift, then it's like NoPrep stick shift.
Yeah, it's very small in the stick shift world. So he has one back-to-back, but I mean all our other classes have been multiple winners. So that's kind of where I base my rule sets off of. I'm like, I want it to be, so if you've never come to my NoPrep event, you'll have a chance in the class that you enter. Because as long as you fall or you fit into those rule sets, your car should be competitive in that core group. And that's how I looked at it, and that's how it works. But I get a lot of slack in the NoPrep community for this, because they're like, oh, you're outlawing all the fastest guys. I said, we're not outlawing anybody. We're just putting everyone in their own group. So all those fast guys can race each other. And if we get enough of them, I'm happy to put, more money. I understand they spend, and I understand people work very hard to get faster and they buy new cars and this and that. But where do we, how do we keep it so that the other guys who don't have the same amount of money can still come out and race? Like the point of racing in general is to go out and have fun.
Yeah.
We all want to win. Trust me. I want to win more than anybody. We all race to win. But we also got to remember we're racing to have fun as well. So if you're coming and you're just getting your, your shit pushed in every single time, how long are you going to keep going out and doing that?
Yeah, the car might sit next event, and you might.
Yeah, you're going to be like, okay, like because I mean, it's all expensive, as you know. Gas has gotten more money, race gas and all that stuff. Parts super expensive. You're buying into these classes at $250.
Yeah, they're not donations. You're not just.
Yeah, you're not coming out to
be.
be like, hey man, here's $250 for your race program because you're about to stomp me.
Yeah. But even the fastest guys that I know, like the more top tier ones, when I talk to them, they talk about racing up a class. They always talk about racing up a class. They never want to punch down. Which I find is really cool because a lot of people, they want to like punch down. Like, oh, how can I, change something to be in the slower class.
Yeah, I
But
think
a lot
they
of the
might
guys-
say that, but you'll also see a lot of guys punching down. There's a lot of guys who have small tire cars
sure.
that definitely are trying to squeeze into, like, I've seen it myself. They'll squeeze into True Street. I've even seen some small tire cars jump all the way down to Daily Driver if they can. So there are certain guys, yes, I agree. But a lot of guys just, if there's money, the problem here too is the money has blown up.
Yeah.
It used to be, these NoPrep used to be $2,500. Like you'd win $2,500, everyone was happy about it. Now you got NoPreps coming out $75,000. You got Corey doing this slick prep or whatever, NoPrep. It's like kind of NoPrep, but it's like middle. I don't completely understand it, but it's supposed to be the fastest guys on slicks on 28s. Let's put it that way. It's not really a NoPrep.
Yeah.
It's
like
just
120 grand to win or something crazy.
It's 75 grand to win.
Yeah.
Which is like, that is going to make people do whatever they need to do.
Yeah.
Because that's like a person's income for the year. You win that. I mean, that's significant.
Huge. Yeah.
And more races now are like 10 grand, 15 grand. And people are willing to do what they need to do to win that money. So it now takes that little bit of enjoyment. And I love those races too. We go to them. I mean, I've been to War in the Woods. I've been to Dig or Die multiple times. I've been to all the biggest races they hold in the country because I'm chasing the same dream to try to win that money. But the problem with more money brings more money.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you see cars that used to run X275 that are now running NoPrep.
Yeah.
And not to take anything away from those guys because still getting down that road is the equalizer and difficult, but they start with a car that's already really good. And to preface me saying punching down, I've done a lot of index racing where I've slowed my car down.
Yeah.
But it's index racing.
Yeah, index is different.
It doesn't even, like, I'm not punching down. We're all trying to run 850.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that guy could be on a big block methanol and he's still trying to run 850.
In the NoPrep world, it's different, though, because you're basically taking a car that's much faster than everyone else's, and it's heads-up racing and dumping it into a class where the cars are slower.
Yeah.
Because they just are. They don't have that chassis, or they don't have, and you've somehow, a big thing in NoPrep is the gray area. Everyone loves to talk about the gray area and sneaking through with whatever thing they said, oh, the rule says this, and we get it. Most NoPreps don't even tech cars. Like, that's one thing I've always been, it sucks, I hate doing it, but we tech every single car that comes on the property before it makes a pass to make sure that they follow all the rules.
That's good.
Because a lot of NoPrep is just off of integrity, I guess. Not everybody has integrity. I mean, I hate to say that, but
it's true.
And nobody wants to be the rat.
Yeah.
Like, who wants to go, so-and-so's car's on a 28 10.5W. I don't want to be the rat. I don't want to also have to go around the parking lot and look at everyone's shit to see if someone's cheating. Like, that's not my job.
I've gotten beat by cars that don't fit the class rules, and I'm just like, darn.
Yeah,
you know what
but
I mean?
it still
like,
sucks.
Yeah,
it's
you're biting your tongue.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Nobody, like, you see it in drivers' meetings, okay? One guy will want to be in a class, and he doesn't fit the rules, and he goes, can you just please ask in drivers' meeting? And you're like, okay, can so-and-so's car come into small tire? It is a chassis car, but blah, blah, blah. And you see the drivers, like, you can see it in their face. They don't want to allow it, but in the same sentence, they don't want to be the one guy who puts his hand up and says no.
Yeah.
So it puts people in a weird spot. That's why we tech it. You don't have to worry about it. When you come to our race, all the cars have been teched. Have we missed little things? Of course. We're human. I mean, we try. I have my buddy Mike, who owns a chassis shop, so he's very good at looking at chassis and understands all that stuff. So him and I go through it all, and we literally look at every single car, make sure. Now, we're not teching them for safety. We're teching them to follow in our rule set.
Yeah.
So at least when you come to our event, you know 100% that the cars have been teched by somebody. You don't have to worry about going around to people's pits and looking at shit. Like, I used to hate that even myself. I'd have guys coming over to creep my stuff. I know what they're doing. They're acting like they're like, oh, yeah, that's a nice car. And they're like bending down, looking at the tire and looking underneath and stuff. Yeah. And I'm like, dude, I'm not a cheater.
Like, what valve stem is that?
Yeah.
Like, reading the tire.
Yeah, it's so ridiculous, right? But I get it because there's no tech. And then if you get beat by that person, everybody's always looking for that. It drives me nuts, but they're always looking for like the easier win. if you're fast. Do you know what I mean? If they can call you out on something right as you're at the starting line, be like, oh my God, this guy's tires are illegal, and they can move on to the next round, they'll do it.
Yeah. I mean, when there's, like we're
There's
talking
money
with
involved.
a $75,000 race to win, and if they don't tech, you bet your ass if somebody's not, we're talking $75,000 here.
100%.
Like, I'll tech every car myself if I have the chance to win, and like,
Yeah.
you know
That's what I mean, though. When money's involved, it's no longer for fun. People get more serious, and it's understandable. They're giving out their hard-earned money to race in this thing. I want to race people that have followed the rules. I don't want to race cheaters. Why would I want to do that? I'm just giving them money.
Well, like, a couple times I've been out to TX2K, and we were out at TX2K one year, and they came up to me and they were like, hey, your front tires, my skinnies, were not DOT approved. And I'm like, yeah, but they're skinnies. Like, they're not, they're of no benefit to me.
Yeah, being DOT or not.
Yeah.
It's not going to help you.
And this was 4 cars left.
Yeah. Yeah, see?
In a 32-car field.
Yeah.
I was like, you guys are coming to me now? I told him no. I was like, no, too bad.
Yeah.
You should have said, I went through tech. You had the opportunity to check them. Now there's 4 cars left. It's too late.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. At that point, once racing has begun, and I tell people this too, once it's begun, it's begun. We do our best to tech everything and catch everything.
I told the tech guy no, and he was like, he was like, what do you mean you're not just pulling out a line? I was like, yeah no. Like, what do you mean?
The boat sailed already.
And then they told me, they were like, oh, go ask your competitor if he'll still race you. I walk up to my competitor. He's got the same tire on the front. I was like, why do I have to ask him?
Yeah, we got the same tires.
Yeah, I was like, we're the same. It's the same combo.
That's the problem. And that's why over the years of promoting and doing this stuff, every event we learn something. And every event we become better at what we do because you see all the bullshit and all the stipulations. And like, we used to do buybacks in classes. We still do if the car count's low just to help build the pots. I hate doing it, but sometimes you have to if it's lower car count.
It's a good way to help build the pot, though. And like,
oh, yeah. It definitely helps pump the pod. And guys who, let's say, your trans brake failed first round. You didn't technically lose, but you did.
Yeah.
It gives you another opportunity to come back in. But like we had buybacks one year, and a guy bought back in, and then somehow, I don't know, got a competition buy and then got a buy and like ended up in the finals and won the whole thing. And they're like, how, people started losing it online. Facebook, of course, the day after the event. How the hell do you give a guy a buy after he bought back in, blah, 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 blah. So, I mean, every event we learn something like that, for example. So now you can't get a buy if you buy back in. That is your buy because you've bought back in now. So it's just little things like that. And like even the rule sets, if we had to tweak little things like north versus south. I know you've seen it. Everyone's seen that. Trucks crashing first pair. I mean.
Yeah, 1320 was there.
Yeah.
Street Race Channel.
Everybody was there. It was an awesome race, huge race.
The turnout seemed unbelievable.
Oh, yeah. It was one of the best races we've had. And I think 98% of the people had an awesome time. Even the guys who crashed even said, shit happens. We get it. We even found a truck for the one kid that my buddy had one just sitting out in the field. And he's like, I'll donate, this old race S10 I have to that kid. Because he literally just finished that truck that day and then got T-boned by the other truck.
Yeah, that was unfortunate.
Yeah, and it blew the windshield out. So now in True Street, we allow the Lexan windshields because of that. And people are like, oh my God, it's not a street car. It's not that. When you physically watch that happen and see the glass explode, not only does it take forever to clean, and it gets in everyone's tires no matter how they clean it, dangerous. You have your visor open, that shit goes in your face. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, we still want people to have fun and be safe. So if that means we allow those windshields in that class, then that's what it is. It's nothing to do. I'm sorry, I replaced the windshield on my S10 and it's glass. I think it weighs 18 pounds. Mm-hmm. It's not. I switched to Lexan. Maybe I'll save 10 pounds. I don't eat lunch. It's a 10-pound difference. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not going to be a game changer in the sport. So that's what I mean by always evolving your rules. We don't want to change the rules because I think right now where we're at is perfect. Like I said, no one's won any of our events back to back. So we have no real reason to change anything. It's just little tweaks like that, just for safety. We also had a daily driver class. The guy was pulling 130-foot wheelies with lap belts on
Yeah.
a bench seat. And I'm like, I mean, I'm all for it. You got some balls.
It's cool.
It's cool, but I don't really like that. So
Yeah.
we allowed in the older cars, you can put a Kirky with a harness in it. Again, for safety. It's not about making it a race car and daily driver. We want to see people come out to the event and go home at night to their families and not get fucked up and not, like, crashes happen, like you see.
Yeah.
North versus South. We had like 4 or 5 right out of the gate because people didn't realize that that's true NoPrep. Like, we scraped the track for North versus South. There was no testing Friday night. People came out of the gate. It was nothing to do with the surface. It was their tune-ups were wrong.
Well, a couple people, they get their skis get ahead of them or whatever you want to say, and they're trying to overdrive the car. And the tires are spinning, and
it's a lot of pressure. It's a big event. You got 13,
first
20
round, you
there.
don't want to get out.
You don't want to look like people don't want to lose. I get it.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. I've held wheelies that I probably shouldn't have.
And people overdrive their car, and
Yeah, it's part of the game. Mm-hmm. It doesn't make NoPrep not safe because we were very safe.
Yeah.
You were in a track environment. There was an ambulance on site. You had walls to contain the vehicles.
yeah,
Can somebody else come across and hit you? Yes, but that can happen in anything. Look at some of the biggest. What was that one that just happened? They do in Maryland.
oh yeah, MIR, the World Cup.
World Cup. How many cars crashed there?
Yeah.
And that's a very prep surface.
I was there for it. There was a
So
lot.
when people say they have this stigma about, oh my God, prep guys, you guys are, a little bit slow or like not 100% upstairs. It's not that.
Aren't all of us that race?
Well, yeah. I mean, every time you line up a car, you're taking that risk.
Yeah.
I mean, shit can break on your own car and put you in the wall.
I kicked the head gasket out of my car and hit the wall.
That's what I mean.
At BMP.
So I don't think NoPrep racing at this point, maybe in the beginning was more dangerous because people didn't quite understand. But at this point, so many people have done NoPrep racing that it's no different than frontside. You actually probably see more crashes at frontside now.
Yeah.
Because the guys in NoPrep understand when their vehicle is out of it, that it's already over. The pass is over. Mm-hmm. It's like losing the tire on a radial. What are you going to do? Pedal it 100 times? You're not going to get it back, and
Yeah.
the pass is done. You just lift and roll on out. It's
I've
done.
seen so many people, like the car's like 200 feet in front of them and they wad it up and it's like,
Why?
what were you doing?
Yeah.
He's gone.
Yeah, if you're like, neck and neck and the car gets a little out, I mean, I get it. You're a racer. You will still want to push the envelope a little bit. But yeah, you see some stuff and it's just like, that's 100% driver.
It's like you lost the race already at the first
It
60
was
feet.
long gone. Yeah.
Learn to lift.
Yeah.
Especially if you're at like a no time deal where you're not even getting a slip. You're not getting anything. Like,
No.
just get off the gas.
Live to race another day. That's what I always say. I got way too much money, and I tell people this all the time. I just got too much money in the truck now to win $2,500. You got to also, in the back of your head, realize, you might lose this one, but if I put that truck in the wall, it's going to cost me a hell of a lot more than $2,500.
Yeah.
So why, I get it if it's for $100,000 and you're in the finals, I'll probably send whatever I got. I'll push the head gaskets out. I'll be holding both scrambles on full kill, because there it's somewhat worth it. But a lot of these races, like $5,000, you're going to ball your car up for $5,000.
Yeah. So your race, you did the North versus South, and that brought out a huge showing. The next one is this weekend.
Yeah, we have the Redemption 4.
Okay, the Redemption 4.
So it's the 4th one in January.
Okay.
We started with the Redemption way back 4 years ago.
And then what's after this one? Is there another
North versus South
North
2.
versus South 2? Okay.
And that will be the final race at Immokalee ever to happen because they are no longer operating out of there after that.
At all, because I know they were talking about moving it.
They're talking about moving it, but it won't be at the airport. The airport is taking it back.
Interesting. So the airport's getting more busy, I guess, so they want the land back?
There's something. I haven't got into the politics with it.
Yeah.
I just know from the Facebook posts, talking to the track owners and stuff, they are definitely looking for a new location. But I think it's something with the county and the airport and just all the stuff going on there. So this will be the last North versus South to be at Immokalee.
And when's that one?
February 22nd.
February 22nd. Okay, so that'll probably be the big one.
That will be the biggest end of year. The nice thing is down here in February, where else are you going to race?
No, it's beautiful down there.
Yeah,
in February.
the weather's perfect down here. Perfect DA. Weather's nice. You can bring your family for vacation. You can go to the beach, make it a week, and you get to race in one of the baddest NoPrep races we have down here.
Yeah, and there's good money to win.
Oh, yeah. There's good. I would like to go through this actually, because North versus South is a weird pay structure that nobody else really does. So we, actually, I was sitting at dinner with my buddy Terry again, and I was talking about it, and I'm like, you know what really sucks is I travel all over the country. I go to all these races. I've made it to the semis, quarterfinals. A lot of times we make it to almost the finals and leave with $0.
Yep.
Because you just, if they decided not to break it off going lower, like all our races, we do 80-20 non-negotiable. Because I feel like if you make it to the finals and you leave with nothing, that's kind of messed up.
Yeah, you want at least gas money to get home.
Yeah, like 20% of the pot, I think is more than fair.
Yep.
A lot of guys will do that on their own. We just made it mandatory because there are some guys that just think they have the baddest bitch on the property and they want all the money and they're not going to split anything.
Yeah.
And that's fine. They can do that. Like some guys have done 50-50 splits. Like you can do whatever split you want, but we do 80-20 guaranteed.
I've split, but only with friends. I'll split in the finals with friends.
Okay.
And even if there's already a split, we'll still split, and then we'll just split the whole pot.
Yeah.
If there's a runner-up money, we'll just split it all. But only
which
with
is
friends,
good.
not with
which I
random
get.
people. Yeah.
And that's fine. That's the way you want to do it.
Yeah.
We've done 80-20 in every class. So second place will always get 20% of the whole pot in their class, whatever their pot class is. We separate it 80-20. If they want to do 60-40, whatever, that's on them after. We pay out 80-20. So for North versus South, I said, how can we do it so that all these racers who are constantly coming out, they're going 3, 4, 5 rounds and getting nothing. How can we still make a badass race where the winner will still get paid good money and we can pay back some of these guys that are constantly going rounds? Because, even to go 4 rounds still costs you all that fuel, tires. Like, it still costs you money.
Costs just as much as the guy that won.
Exactly. So the way we did the payment structure is I said, okay, why don't we charge a little bit more? So instead of $250, we do a $300 buy-in. We take all that money. We ask the track. Basically, everybody is chipping in. So the track chips in some money. We chip in money from the year from our sponsors and stuff, personally, whatever we can do to make a bigger pot. But now we pay back half the buy-in per round you win. So if you win first round and you go on to second round, at second round you get $150 back. If you go on to third round, you get another 150. And you keep getting 150 as you go through the rounds because we have quite a few cars. Mm-hmm. So by the end of it, you're actually making money back plus some. So if you go 5-6 rounds, you leave with money. You're up out of that thing. And I think you should be. Because now some people will say, oh, you're just giving out participation awards and blah, blah, blah. This is the only race we do this. And I think it's just a nice give back to all the guys, you know what I mean? That they get something back at the end of this. Because this is kind of like, it's not our season finale because we're still doing one more backside race at Orlando in March. But it used to be our season finale. So this was like, our racing season here, or like our series is done. This is how we give back to the racers.
Yeah.
But the pot still ends up being for the winner like 10 grand or 12 grand because we also contribute all this money. And once you break the math down with enough cars, you can still separate a lot of the buy-ins to make a pot a decent sized pot. So last year it was 10 or 12 grand. Sorry.
No problem.
There we go.
Yeah, it makes sense. And you bring out better racing by doing that because the racers have less risk to showing up, and it just brings out more cars.
Yeah, I think it would motivate. Like, I wish there were more events that kind of did a pay structure like that because a lot of the times it would at least cover my travel. You know what I mean? You definitely don't race to make money. Like they say, every billionaire to become a millionaire, buy a couple race cars, and that'll do it for you. This is not a sport where I think unless you have some kind of secret, like there's a few guys in NoPrep that probably make money at this. But when you calculate, it's like the lottery. You know what I mean? There's a lot more people that go out and race and don't make shit.
Absolutely.
So,
well, if you look at it like the racers are the show, you're kind of paying them to be part of the show.
Exactly.
In a way, instead of making them pay to be part of the show across the board. The people that lose, they don't get anything, but that's that happens. But
well, yeah, that's part of racing. Like you're gonna lose. I get it, but I agree with you. Like the racers are, and that's why I've always kind of looked at our promoting not from a spectator point of view, because I think no matter what, we're still giving the spectators a good show. If they like racing, but I always have kind of leaned towards doing what I think is better for the actual racers. Because I'm a racer myself, I look at how I'd want to be treated at an event, or what I think would be, cool for. We try to just make it cool for the guys who are showing up. Like, they're the ones. I have all the respect for spectators who bring their families out and stuff. But you got to remember, the guys who are also coming to race are spending thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to come out there and race. They don't owe it to me to come out there and put on a show for the spectators. So I look at it from both ways. I want to have an awesome show for spectators, but I always lean more towards making sure that the racers have something for them, because they're the ones really putting in the huge investment into this world. So
yeah, and if it's good for the racers, it tends to be good for the spectators.
Yeah, normally. But that's where, like I said, some promoters give me slack for this because they're like, "Oh, but you got to put on a show for the spectators, this and that." I'm like, yeah, but at what sacrifice?
Yeah.
What are we sacrificing to the guys? I've been to races where I feel like I just got taken advantage of. You come to the track and the buy-in for the racer is like $100. Spectators are $10. And you're like, what? Hold on a minute.
Yeah.
I'm paying $100 to come put on a show for these people. I get it. I'm racing for money as well for myself, but it seems like you're kind of taking advantage of.
Yeah, it's like I am the show, and I'm not getting anything for it.
No, like you're overcharging me.
Yeah.
Like I hate having to charge racers. I also understand from the track's point of view, the racers are the guys who leave garbage, sadly. They're the guys who make messes in the pits.
They use the surface.
They use the surface, all that stuff. So there is, we don't charge crazy money. We charge $25 for racers to come to our event, and we charge $20 for spectators. So, I've tried to close that gap. I would love to just have racers there for free if I could. That would be ideal, but I think that's a fair amount. And going other places, I've seen it a lot more money. So I get it, but I've always, like I said, I try to lean towards guys like myself, yourself, like guys who go out there and they put in the time to do this stuff, because I know firsthand.
Yeah.
There's nobody who can tell me, oh, how is it, you don't understand how it is to be a racer. Absolutely, I do. I'm out every weekend. Like I spend 12 months of the year. Guys up north spend 6 months of the year, and then they work on their stuff for 6 months of the year because it's winter. There's nothing to do. We are at the track 12 months of the year. It never stops. Like I had to refresh my motor over Christmas and hound the guys at the engine shop because I said, come January 1st, we got 2 events to go to. So we had a 2-week window to fix everything, get the truck all freshened up again for another full 12 months. It's tough.
Yeah. Florida, we don't really have a down season at all of racing when you live here. Our downtime is normally in the summer when it's rainy.
It's dead hot or rainy.
Yeah, it's rainy and it's hot in the summer, so we normally don't do much during the summer. But it feels weird to have it as a downtime. Because
I know. That's when everybody else is full racing. But if you don't travel, like I talk to a lot of people down here, obviously, your downtime would be the summer. It's like June, July, August, somewhere in there, because I know a lot of these guys are working on their cars then.
Yep.
That's when they tear them down.
Yeah, it's hot. It's rainy. Who the heck?
My problem is I'm just stupid, and I go 12 months. Like, really, I should be taking, 3 months off somewhere and just, chilling out. The problem is it's like drugs to me. I want to race every weekend if I can, so I work hard and try to figure out ways that I can accomplish that goal.
Well, also in Florida, there's just not that much racing. There really isn't. I know people that live in DFW area.
Yeah.
Dallas,
Oh, yeah.
And there's a race every single weekend, sometimes 3 in a weekend at 3 different tracks.
Yeah.
My buddy in Dallas, he's within 2 hours of me, there's 7 tracks.
Well, that's the same thing now with NoPrep up north. There are 15 events every weekend within 7 hours of me.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And they just keep getting more and more because now basically, I don't know if you've noticed this, but all the flyers now say NoPrep. No prep, blah, 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 at this track. Every single everybody's jumping on the wagon now, and it's the wagon's getting full.
Well, I've never really gotten a clean definition of what NoPrep is. Is it backside? Because that's different NoPrep than front side.
Yeah, there's two definite kinds of NoPrep.
We on the
There's
street?
backside racing, which is more street, I would say. And then there's front side racing, which basically just means they didn't prep it that day.
But did they scrape?
Some do, some
Did
don't.
they use the soap and water? Did
That's
they
what
scrub
I
it?
mean. Like, the definition of no prep has gotten out of hand a little bit because now everyone just uses it. We were actually talking about it on the table last night, like that other podcast. And everyone's like, yeah, I don't really know what the definition of no prep is now because it's gotten so vague, like no prep kings, street outlaws. I mean, and then you see the sprayer going down and you're like, and everyone lost their shit about that.
Out in Vegas, it was like, wait, you guys are prepping.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, it was cold. And it's
Well,
like,
and now a lot of people are starting to transition. Like I said, Corey's doing this slick prep. So it's like we're starting to now branch out into these different segments. I mean,
it's just a circle. Things
yeah.
just come back around.
Yeah, eventually it'll be radial prep.
Well, I've talked
no
to,
prep.
I think I was talking to Joey Heichel about this. I was like, at what point in racing, if it's a 4-round race, at what point can you take the slicks off and put a radial on and get down?
A lot of people are doing that.
Because a couple rounds in,
Oh,
or
yeah,
even
it's
first round,
sticky. Yeah, it gets
it might be
sticky.
worth just popping
Well,
a
even
radial
guys at
on.
Immokalee lately, I've been walking around the pits and stuff. The guys who used to run slicks, I'm seeing a lot more radials. So I said, that tells me we need to scrape the track.
Well, with traction control getting so good as well.
That too, yeah.
Some of these traction controls are so minimally invasive that they just work and you can hardly hear them work. They used to be like, pop, 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 like pulling all kinds of power, but now they're just like smooth.
Again, I think this is the learning curve from tuners. I'm a tuner as well. I think you slowly start figuring out the software and figuring out how the car likes it, as opposed to in the beginning, everyone was kind of like, oh, we got traction control. We're just going to, run the curve and then kill it if it's out of the curve and this and that. It doesn't work very well like that.
2 cylinders down.
Yeah, and killing cylinders like the poor motors.
Yeah.
That sounds horrible. But I think, a lot of that is just experience. Like you've got guys like Casey Max who've been doing this forever. He knows that car. You got guys like Beaterbaum there. Same thing. These guys have had these cars, SRC. Billy Still, he knows that pickup truck better than a lot of guys. Like us in the pickup truck world, I'll look up to him because, he's had the time. I've had my truck now for 5 years. I'm just now starting to, really grasp what it likes, what it doesn't like. It takes time. Like it's multiple testing, multiple, trying, let's try this. Oh, that failed miserably. So let's go back to this or that. Like there is no... I don't think there's like a turnkey. A lot of guys will buy cars and they're like, oh, it's a turnkey no prep car. I don't think so. Because that person, unless that person is going to tell you everything that they've learned and given you all the tune-ups and say, listen, you got to run it like this. That's the only way it's going to work. If you just go and build a car now, you're at zero. Like you have to figure out exactly. Some people are very knowledgeable and stuff, but the guys who are killing the game right now have had their cars for a long time. Most of them.
And, I think Joey kind of, Heichel, he puts on more of like a persona like, just kind of doing it. But like that thing is methodically figured out.
And he's tried all kinds of shit.
Yeah. And
he's a smart dude. I mean, I give him respect for that.
Yeah.
He's
done the testing. He's done the laps. He's got the data. Like he doesn't just like throw something at it. Like he's got it figured out. I look at PRI. He did a bar angle change before he brought it to the show.
He's smart.
Just to mess with
Well,
people.
you saw how many people climb underneath because everyone thinks just because you know his bar angles don't mean shit. It's like when people tell me they're like, hey, I can help you. I can give you my suspensions or my shock settings. I said, how the hell is that going to help me?
Yeah.
They're like, well, we have an S10 too. And I'm like, I understand that. What kind of shocks do you have? What valving do you have? What kind of leaf springs do you have? What kind of couch? Like, there is no, even if I were to give everyone everything that's done to my truck and give them all the settings, unless you literally build identical, like to the T truck, it's not going to help you.
Yeah. Where's your
and then
weight
we
at?
got to
What's
go
your
into
NI roll bar doing?
Then we got to go to the tune-up. Like, there's so much involved in these things that there is no, like, climbing underneath people's cars isn't going to... You can look and be like, oh, that's kind of cool or whatever.
Yeah, it might help a little on a Fox body, but it's only going to get you a little closer.
Yeah.
If
you're
you're off,
still
you're
going to
still
have to
off.
figure it out. And a lot of these guys, you don't see, and this is what we do on our YouTube channel. I started doing YouTube because I wanted to give people more of a look into you can go and watch 15 different YouTube channels of whatever race you're at that weekend. There's lots of guys doing that. And there's lots of guys who vlog and do different things. I just film the shit that people don't see. Mm-hmm. Going back to the trailer and saying, we just failed miserably. Like, that didn't work at all. I try to, explain what we did. I try to show a little bit of, I don't want to show everything because it's taken me a long time to figure it all out too. I don't want to just give everybody all that. You got to go out and test. Like, you got to we go out and test every Friday. Like, I'm at Immokalee every Friday for Test and Tune, and we were trying something different every week. And figuring out, okay, this made it, even if you shave a tenth, why did it shave a tenth? What did we do differently? Write it down in the book. Like, people need to put in the time. You're not just going to be a NoPrep superstar overnight by buying a $100,000 car, jumping in there and being like, okay, well, I spent the money.
Yeah.
You got to put in the time, and it's a lot of time. And we're still slow. So,
well, you used to be able to get away with just more horsepower.
That's what it used to be, yeah.
And you can't. Like,
guys
can't
are
get
too
away
fast
with that.
now.
There's too much technology. There's too much going on in those things for you to just horsepower through a field.
Yeah, I've seen that too. Guys are like, oh man, I just bought this most badass LS. It cost me, 70 grand or 65 grand. It's got all the best shit in it and this and that. I'm like, okay, so you got 10% of what you need.
Yeah.
Now what?
Like making the horsepower is easy.
Now you got to figure out how to put that to the ground.
Yeah, that's making the horsepower is the easy part of the whole deal. I mean, there's a lot of people
moving
that can make
weight
3,000
around
horsepower.
and suspension, and if the surface, like everything is it's a constantly changing dynamic. And that's another big thing I've learned through the last 5 years with this truck. You can have the best suspension setting when you get to the track and it's on rails.
Yeah.
And the sun can go down and it changes everything. And everything you had there, it won't. Like, I've ran back to back, even lane choices. We've ran in one lane with everything identical. Same weight, same move over to the right lane, 2/10 slower. Same exact, didn't change a thing. Air pressure, everything identical.
Yeah.
It's just the surface. The surface, you need to be prepared and you need to be on multiple surfaces. And I tell people this too, because if you go to one track all your life, yes, you will be a rock star at that track. But if you leave your bubble, you're screwed because you've never had experience on any other kind of surface. So that's all you know. We traveled the country. I've been on gravel roads. I've been on, pretty much everything. And I take notes and I write down exactly. And then from there, once you've been on enough different surfaces, you can go somewhere, like we can go out on the street here and say, you know what, this street is very similar to this place in Indiana. Go back in the book. What did we use for suspension here? Let's set it up kind of like that, and we'll be ballpark. That'll just get you ballpark. Making that first round of any kind of street race, NoPrep race, the first round that's your killer.
Yeah.
Because you can drive 8 hours and be eliminated first pass, and nothing hurts more than going out first round.
That's why I like a lot of these NoPrep races that, Friday they'll have one race and then Saturday they'll have another.
Yeah, so do I. I prefer the multi-weekend stuff.
But even I go out to TX2K, but it's just the one race. It's just the one show.
Yeah.
There's no Friday race and then Saturday race. It's just that's it.
It's tough.
So it's make or break.
Yeah.
Or you're going home. You're going home early. Or if you don't qualify, you got to qualify for some of these deals.
Yeah, that's true.
And then that makes it even harder because you could be going home before the race even starts.
Yeah, that was the one thing I didn't like about NoPrep, kind of, was like, I know it's off the trailer and it's one and done. But I mean, when you travel, like I said, you spend $1,000 in travel to go somewhere and you get one pass and you're out. That sucks.
Well, that's what we were talking about with Garrett's race coming up, the all-wheel drive versus rear-wheel drive deal. Off the trailer is really tough for some of these rear-wheel drive guys. That first round is definitely really towards the all-wheel drive guys.
Yeah. Well, that's always been like that.
And once the rear-wheel drive guys get one pass, they'll probably know enough.
The question will be if all those rear-wheel drive guys will come together and share, or if they won't, because there's a lot that will. And I mean, our community in the NoPrep world, there's a lot of guys that are willing to share with you, but there's also a lot of guys that aren't.
Yeah.
Which is understandable. I see it both ways. Like, you want to help people out, but you're also helping out your competition indirectly. Mm-hmm. Like, you're going to be lined up beside that guy one day. And like I said, if you've put in the time, it's almost selfish a little bit, but it feels like if you've spent all those weekends testing and this and that, just don't want to give out everything that you've learned because you've put in the time. It's like anything, right?
Yeah, I talk to friends that have lockup converters are really big.
Yeah.
And how they use them, and they're like, I'm not just going to give this out to people. Like,
No.
this knowledge was expensive to learn.
Absolutely.
Like, I'm not just giving it out
That's
for
what I
free to
mean,
everybody
like-
that asks for it.
There's a lot of knowledge out there already. I mean, you can go on YouTube and learn a shit ton if you want. And I have learned a lot doing that myself. But nothing will ever be better than just making passes.
Yeah.
You'll learn the most from just making passes over and over and over again and trying new things.
And even some of these people, like, it might be worth paying somebody to come in for the weekend.
Or that. Yeah.
And, whether you're making passes and they're helping you and, like, teaching you and showing you the ropes, there's plenty of people. I bet you any NoPrep person in the world you could pay them to come in for the weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Some amount of money.
And help you for sure.
Yeah, any of these people don't realize, like, a couple grand, it could probably get,
It'll definitely help your program. It's a lot better than trying to do it all yourself. Like, even I hear a lot of trucks and stuff. We do a lot of truck events, and I hear these things going down the track, and they're popping and banging and this and that, and I'm cringing inside because I'm like, oh my God. All you need is a proper tuner, and I bet you'll pick up 4/10 right out of the gate.
Yeah.
Because they're just going down, and you hear them, and I'm like, oh, that poor engine.
No changes to
But a lot of people have
anything.
a lot of pride, and they don't want to ask for help, or they don't want to
Yeah.
hire somebody. They're like, oh no, I got it. I know everything. I'm good.
Well, it's like, oh, I wired this thing myself. I built the motor myself. Of course I can tune it. It's
Yeah.
like, well, that's a different skill set
Well,
altogether.
yeah, and I mean, there's people who do it for work, and like that's what they do, and they have a lot more experience in it, right? I have a lot of good friends that are great tuners, and they've helped me with stuff. Like, I'm not perfect. I'm always learning too. Everyone's always learning. You have to be always learning because technology is constantly changing. Mm-hmm. So nobody is like the best. I don't think. I mean, there's
Well,
a lot of guys that are, but
Even like, again, with the traction control stuff, like like a Davis box is not a simple thing
No,
to
it's
use.
not.
It's like a whole different ECU. Like, you're using a
Absolutely.
second laptop sometimes to plot that.
But that's what I mean. Like, you're going to be learning. I like to learn, obviously, on my own things. I don't want to learn on a customer's car and be like, oh, fuck, I blew that up. That was bad. So, yeah, I test. That's why we have the truck, is to test. That's why I did it all in the Jeep. We used to test everything on the Jeep to try to get it sorted out because you can't use a customer's car for that. I don't agree with that. But
Well, even with you, there's about 50 different variables. Like, okay, it didn't go down. Do we open the dump valve a little more?
Yeah,
Do
exactly.
we take some bar angle out of it? Do we take the tire pressure out of it? There's like 100. You could chase your tail on a car not getting down the track for
which
hours.
I used to do. I was the worst at. Terry would say it all the time. He goes, don't touch anything. I already know what your head's going. I'm like, yeah, we got to change the front shocks, rear shocks, tune up, tire pressure, change the bar angle.
Yeah.
Change 50 different things, and then it's 10 times worse. And he's
Move
like,
weight around. Oh, yeah, all of it.
Why? He's like, just pick one. What do you think would be most beneficial? And I'm like, you're right. But yeah, you got to put in the time.
I talked to some people, they're like, okay, I went 408 on that pass. And I'm like, I'll go 390s. And then they're like, okay, it's going to go 406 on this next pass. And I'm like, you're so incremental
But
on your changes.
incremental makes you fast.
No, it's the smart way to do it.
It is the
They're
very smart
doing
way.
it the right way. My brain is just like,
Oh, I know. You just want to get to the finish, the result, because I'm the same way. I've got times in my head that I want to see the truck get to, so I'm like, I'm sure if we just did this, this, and this, we'll get right to that time I want, and it doesn't work like that.
yeah, let's just change everything.
Yeah,
Quick.
you got to go a tenth, and then it's when you stop getting that 10th that becomes real frustrating.
Yeah.
Because then it starts running like a bracket car. We've had multiple test sessions like that, where no matter what I change, it just keeps going the same thing. And again, converter issue. More power you put doesn't make you faster. Mm-hmm. It's now slipping the converter, so now you actually start going backwards. And then your mind gets really messed up because you're like, what? I just added, 3 pounds of boost, and now we're slower. What the heck?
Yeah.
It's that kind of frustrating stuff that'll drive you crazy. But that's why if you go incrementally and say you add 2 pounds of boost and it doesn't do anything, why jump to 6? Because you know it's going to get worse. So you got to know at that point, okay, we got to do a stator change or, tighten this thing up a little bit so it'll take more power or whatever the problem may be. I mean, with technology now, again, like you said, you have all these things, drive shaft sensor, shock sensors. The more data, I'm a big data guy. I like that stuff. The more data I can look at, it can also screw you too, because you open that laptop up and you got
if you don't know what you're looking at,
different things to look at. There are certain things maybe you don't have to look at every time. But what I do is I log all these things. When I'm racing or whatever, I'm only looking at a few different variables. But when I go back home at night is when I really, I'll spend 3 hours after analyzing the computer and looking and saying, our turbo, we have a self-contained oiling system for the turbos. So I monitor oil pressure to the turbo. Stuff like that, I can say, the pump might be getting a little bit weak or stuff. That's for the afterthought. I never look at that at the track.
Yeah.
Unless there's something like it's blowing smoke out the back, then, we start looking for an answer. But that is key as well. The more sensors, the more, because it gives you that knowledge, like you have more to work with for your next time out. So now you can adjust that tune-up, maybe not that day at the track, but it'll definitely teach you stuff outside of that.
Yeah, and there's so many new data forms coming out like you're talking about. And I had a buddy that wired his car, and they were like, oh, yeah, we put like a couple leads to places that we think eventually there might be a sensor, even though they don't exist yet. Mm-hmm. Eventually, someone might want a sensor there.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, wow, that's like next level thinking, because you're thinking about sensors that don't even exist yet and might exist.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, 100%. But, I mean, why wouldn't you at that point? When you're making a harness, you might as well keep everything open for the future.
I know. It's pretty cool.
Because nothing's worse than having to run the wires again after.
Oh, yeah.
Which I've done many times, but...
Then you end up with layers of wiring.
I have a tire temperature sensor, okay? A lot of people don't understand why you'd even bother with that. And I have it on my dash. Reason behind that is I know how cold, like if someone strings you out for a while backing up or whatever, I know the temperature of my tire, and I know to the point where if it gets too cold, it's probably not going to take the tune-up I have in it. So I'll try to leave on a little bit less boost because I know the tire won't hold. Mm-hmm. And people are like, I can't believe you monitor tire temperature. And I'm like, I monitor everything. Like, I have everything I can monitor. I try to monitor, and I'm still adding stuff constantly because, like I said, I like it. I like knowing the data because I think you're smarter if you have that information. Well,
I've caught myself on that too, where I'm talking to my friends that are, very successful racers, and I'm like, I can't believe you have that. And I'm like, but you're still in the race. Yeah, I'm out.
Exactly.
So there must be something to that.
Yeah, I keep telling my friend because he does everything by video, which is fine. I mean, video is a big aspect too if you have a starting line guy. But I said, man, you need like couple little things. At least a drive shaft sensor so you know what the tire's doing. Because video down the track, you're not going to see where the tires, and your ass dyno and your ass sensor is not going to be enough to tell you where you need to take power out. You need shock sensors so is it separating super quickly, or these are minimalistic things that really don't cost that much money. Yeah. People are like, it's so much money. It's really not. To get a couple shock sensors and a drive shaft sensor, you're like maybe under $500.
Well, even I was talking to my converter guy, and he was telling me, he was like, a lot of people put a lockup in and then they hit it and they're like, whoa, it felt so fast. And then you see the G-forces and they're falling off.
Yeah, because it blew the tire off.
Or it felt like it was going fast because it locked up, but you were actually not even like
pulling.
Yeah, you did it at the wrong time. He's like, you may have felt faster, but this is why we use sensors.
Exactly.
Because it actually tells us it was faster.
Well, you may not even know if your dump valves are working if you don't have a pressure sensor on your transmission.
Yeah.
You could think in your head, oh, yeah, they're working. I'm getting up on boost. I didn't have a sensor for a while, and one of the dump valves wasn't even working. And I didn't know that until I put the sensor on, and I'm like, oh, shit, only one of the two.
Yeah.
We have a wiring fault on the dump valve, and we fixed that. But that's what I mean. All that data is priceless, realistically. If you don't have to buy it all at once. You can just, every year for Christmas, ask your wife, girlfriend, whatever, hey, I could use 2 pressure sensors.
Put the wiring there and then...
Yeah, just run a bunch of extra leads and that's it.
Well, especially on like my car, we wired it for the shock sensors. They still have to put them on there sitting in a box. But, you don't need it all the time. Like,
No.
you get it dialed in.
Yeah,
and,
you
like,
can get it dialed in for sure.
And then it's like, you don't even look at it much after that. Like,
No.
especially me, I'm on a sticky track. Like, it should be consistent unless I'm trying to change something really
It should be
aggressively.
consistent, but it'll also give you that information if your shocks are going bad and stuff
Absolutely.
like that. See, there's more to it. That's what I mean when I go back to the late night analyzing.
Yeah.
That's when I start analyzing and overlaying and going, hey, why is now on that same setting all of a sudden, it's whatever, falling over. Or
You can see the head gasket
compressed.
starting to go. Like,
Yeah, you can see coolant pressure.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. There's that information is helpful also for maintenance, and there's more to just that race day.
Well, like the Coyote guys I know, they have chain like sensors to see if the chains are stretching.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And,
That's
like,
what I mean. It's
they
crazy.
know.
You can do all kinds of stuff. Wheelie sensors to control wheelies. There's all kinds of technology is so vast now that we're lucky. We're
Oh, yeah.
blessed because you go back, 20 years, you didn't have any of that. You just got in there and you're like, okay, well, hopefully it goes.
Yeah. Hopefully the trans isn't
Yeah.
done this time.
We don't know anything.
Yeah. So with Immokalee kind of going away, for the short term, hopefully not
Yeah.
for the long term, where are you going to go to next? I know you do some stuff with Ozzy.
Yeah.
Yoho is kind of a loose cannon.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't know him personally. I can't speak of anything. We've only gone to a couple of their events there at Showtime. With Orlando, we work with Javier from TRC.
Oh, okay, cool.
That's where the
Javier's
relationship. Yeah, that's where the relationship began because there was a hole there in the NoPrep. The track still wanted to do NoPrep. Javier does all the midnight stuff there and all the TRC stuff at Orlando. So he asked me if, because we do the NoPrep, if we could work together doing NoPrep there. And I said, absolutely. I love Javier. He's a great dude. I met him with my Jeep when they did a feature on it. So Orlando, we're definitely going to be doing. I think it's going to be a twice-a-year deal, Thanksgiving and March as of now. And then ourselves, see, I'm kind of torn here because we've talked to SGMP up in Georgia, and I think that's where we're probably going to move our stuff because
That's cool. Raul's a racer.
Raul seems like a stand-up guy. Again, I don't know him very well. We've talked back and forth on the phone. I explained kind of what we're doing. What I like about SGMP is a little bit closer for the guys coming down from up north, especially for the North versus South race. It's shitty because it's taking us away from our core Florida group in South Florida.
Yeah.
But
it's close to Immokalee. It really is. It's, 5 hours?
yeah, it's not crazy
That's not
far.
that bad.
I think guys who want to race will come and race, and I think it'll open up a new market for us up there. The problem is it's like we're starting at zero again because the guys in Georgia don't really know us. I mean, a lot of people know me just from social media stuff and stuff like that, but we need to make those relationships now with the local racers, the local companies who want to come out and support.
Yep.
And,
The nice thing about SGMP is they're good at promoting themselves as well.
yeah, absolutely.
Like, not to take away from Immokalee, but they don't do as much
well,
promotion.
no, I
as,
do the promotion for the NoPrep. Like, it's 100% on me, which
but like
I
something
understand.
like SGMP is like, they're big. They got a big following, well known.
So we've talked to them about doing some stuff there, which we're looking forward to for next season. The cool thing there, though, is we can do those events, those 2-day events, and I've talked to them about this already. We can do a backside Friday night and then go to the front side Saturday.
Oh, that's cool.
So we can do those 2-day events there, which is awesome because I love weekend events, like you said. It's more fun and you get more racing in. So we're going to try to do 2-day events for that, which at Immokalee we couldn't do. We can only run it front side. You can't run it backside. It's dangerous as hell.
Yeah.
Go right into the airport. So yeah, we've talked to them about that. So I think we're going to move operations, but we're open to anything in Florida. I mean, like I said, I've reached out to Bradenton. I know that's not their thing. I don't think we would do a front side at Bradenton because it's just too good. I mean, Orlando did front side no preps.
Yeah. Well, Victor said that.
It was fast.
Victor and Wade have both said that to me. They're like, you can't race no prep on this surface.
It's not no prep there. It's too good.
Yeah, they're like, it's not possible.
I like what Cletus is doing, or Garrett's doing at the back there, but I don't think they're going to want to do. I just don't think they have any they just don't want to do no prep there. Like,
Yeah, they don't
Garrett
want.
wants to do his own thing that he'll
Yeah.
film for his channel, which I completely understand. They don't want to have like an event there with
Yeah.
spectators and like make it legit. I mean, I could be wrong, and if I am wrong, please reach out to me. 'Cause
Maybe eventually it'll happen.
I'm happy to run an event there. I'd love to do that because I'd love to stay in Florida. I really do love the people here. I want to make it convenient for the people that race with us now.
Yeah.
But and then we'll wait and see what happens with Immokalee. Maybe they'll open a new track and then we'll come back there after. But
There is another situation is Leadfoot City. Brand
yes, Leadfoot City, we reached out to them
a little short, I
under
heard.
development, yes. And it's not, how do I put this? Leadfoot City is not the venue I think we're looking for because Leadfoot City is more of a entertainment complex. They have stages, drifting. Like when we do a no prep event, that day is our event.
new. Yeah.
Like that's all that's going on. I think if you start putting that all together with the rest of everything going on there, it waters it down a little bit. It makes it harder to run. You're going to have so much other stuff going on. I know their runoff is a little short and they're fixing that. And I'd love to go up there to, I'll go up there to race or do whatever. But we reached out to them in the beginning about hosting events. They didn't really get back to us on it. So I don't beg people. I'm not in the,
yeah.
if you want us to do something, we'll do it. You can reach out to me kind of thing.
Yeah, it just seems
So-
like they'd be dying for events. You know what I mean? It seems like
You
they'd
would
be
think
like,
so, but
please fill our schedule.
yeah, like I said, we reached out. We said, hey, when you guys open up, the grand opening, we'd love to host like a killer banger event before you put all the glue down. Like make it
Yeah.
legit no prep.
Yeah, start with no prep before the glue.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
and then do the glue after. But it would be a kick-ass way to kick off your place, with a grand opening with like an actual street race because that's legit what it would have been.
Yeah.
But they didn't come back to me. So that's fine. They're doing their thing. I think they actually got the promoter from Orlando working there now as track manager, Marco.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So he'll probably start doing something, I'd imagine.
It'd be nice. I mean, it'd be nice for it to just exist because more no preps will just give people a reason to have no
Absolutely.
prep cars.
I think that's where people down by me are getting a little bummed out because a lot of them have, over the last, our series has grown and turned into something big, and people were getting hyped about it. So they were starting to spend money on their cars,
Yeah.
making them no prep cars. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, local tracks closing. That's, for me, it's 40 minutes to go there, or not even 35 minutes. It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's so convenient and close.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if Bradenton closed, they'd be like, well, should I get a boat?
Yeah, that's what I mean. And
Do I
I
get a
think a lot of
side-by-side?
people are like that because they may not be as hardcore of a racer that they want to travel and stay the night, to go to SGMP. There will be a group of them that do, 100%.
For sure.
But I think we will lose a bunch of the local guys that it was just cheaper and easier for them to drive that 30 minutes as opposed to 5. Like when you travel, which I understand because I do it, when you travel to race and you're gone for the weekend, it costs a lot of money. It's expensive. You're away from your family. There's a lot more entailed than just going on a Saturday for 30 minutes and then you're home for dinner kind of thing.
For sure. It's a big endeavor. And,
Yeah.
It's sad for the spectators, too, that loved that. And
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like it hurts me because we've just gotten it to the point that it's about to blow off. Like,
yeah.
I think February's race is going to be huge, and it's awesome. And I'm so pumped that we have something like that so local to race and do, and that it's grown into people coming, from like SRC, guys like that are willing to drive all the way down to South Florida to come race with us is amazing to me.
Yeah, from Ohio with their, high caliber cars.
Oh, yeah.
To come race this deal. And they race a lot of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
It's cool.
Absolutely. So
1320 was there.
yeah, and they're coming back. I believe Kyle said, or Fred said he was coming back for the last one here. That's what I mean. That track is so cool because that is, in my eyes, the perfect place. It's like if you were to pick one place in Florida to host no preps, that's the place. Because it's like that small outlaw backyard track. It's good when it needs to be, but it's also shitty when it needs to be, which is awesome that they can do that transition. So, like I said, their bracket races are fire there. Like that place is sticky as hell, but when he scrapes it and gets it ready for no prep, it's challenging.
Yeah.
It challenges a lot of drivers, and that's what the whole purpose of NoPrep is to be challenging to the drivers, so they have to do a little more work.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be easy.
No, it's not supposed
It's
to be
supposed
easy.
to equalize the cars.
Exactly.
That's the goal.
The surface is the equalizer, so if you have a 4,000 horsepower car, you're going to have to turn that thing way down. And if
Yeah.
you have a little motor, 5.3 that maybe only makes 1,000, you have enough power to compete. That's the nice part. Well,
You make me think about it with
give
my
or take.
little 3-liter out there.
Hey, it can't hurt to try it, right?
I know. Well, it could, but
I mean, it can.
no, I would
but-
try it. I'm not super opposed to it. I'm just it's already set
I
up
think
for
once you've
prep.
done it, it will definitely take changes.
Yeah.
But I think if you went out there and you tried it one time, I think it's a lot of fun. Like everyone there has a lot of fun. And that's all I've ever wanted. I wanted it to be a place you can bring your family and have just a cool night. People are gambling at the starting line and stuff. No prep stuff is just a different vibe. It's
Yeah.
like it's like the best of both worlds. You got like that grudge race kind of mentality, you know what I mean? And then you've got the street racers and everyone's kind of coming together. No time. I know now they're posting times all the time, which I think is the stupidest thing ever. I don't understand.
People like to brag.
I know, but the problem with this is in this sport, when you're letting your nuts hang like that on the internet, it discourages a lot of people because half of the mentality was, you don't really know. Yeah, that pass looked fast, but you don't really know, was it fast or was it slow? There's so many people that will message me or ask me and say, oh, I saw your event at Orlando, let's say, for example. How fast those guys going? Like 530s? I said 530s. Whew. If you were doing 530s there, you would be a legend. You would be out 8 cars on everybody.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're lucky to do a 6.0. I said, and I'll post this kind of stuff. I said, my first pass at Orlando, the very first time I went there, on the backside, I ran a 740. It was the slowest pass I've ever ran in my truck and still won.
Yeah.
And still won first round.
I went 760 in the 8th the other day. I mean, in the quarter the other day.
Wow, I'm talking 8.
Yeah, you're talking 8
Yeah.
at 740.
Exactly.
That's
horrible.
like leaving off idle.
Yeah, exactly. But that's what I mean. That kind of, I don't know. I'm not for, I understand why people do it because they want to, I guess, look fast or look good or it's
Yeah.
showing off. But you're in the wrong style of racing to do that. Then just go radial race. I mean, with the boards lit. Mm-hmm. That's where you really let your nuts hang.
Well, I race no time all the time. Troy Perez does no time races
Yeah.
at Bradenton, but they're prep. And so those cars are going 480s.
Yeah.
Like
But do they like the
faster
boards?
ones?
No.
No.
Yeah. But that's what I mean.
The street style cars are going, mid 4s. And it's like, whoa, okay.
I always believed that no prep racing was like street racing. Like street racing, you put your draggy in the car, you know what you ran.
Mm-hmm.
But even a lot of guys are already now sharing, like everyone's just sharing stuff. I don't think it's good for the sport myself. I could be completely wrong. Maybe it is.
Maybe it'll bring people that thought they weren't competitive in.
Maybe, but
Maybe they'd be like,
the
oh,
guys who
actually,
are really posting those times are not guys that,
they're not posting 580s.
no, like if I posted my time, then maybe people would be like, oh man, I can be competitive, But the guys who are posting the times are posting the times for a reason.
Yeah.
They're showing you who's,
Well, like, can't think of the guy's names offhand, but the black Corvette that does the no
Oh,
prep
Frankenstein.
racing. Yeah, Frankenstein.
Yeah, that thing's a unit.
That team, though, but yeah, those guys have that
That's
thing
fast.
rolling.
Oh, yeah. Everywhere. Even on the street. That is one car that's very impressive. Like I said, they're in that top tier of 5 cars, you know what
Yeah.
I mean, that are just constantly impressive.
And that's a team where it's like you put them on a surface and they're going to
It doesn't matter where you put them. They'll figure it out after first round.
And that car rolls out.
Oh, yeah.
And that's
Rolls
like an
out
X275 car
Exactly.
on no prep
Now, where should that car be?
in X275 on a
Well,
radial.
that's what I mean. Like, that's the problem is you put a car like that into a guy who has a Fox body, all steel, all glass. Yeah, he's got suspension and stuff done that used to race small tire. He's not going to come and race.
Yeah.
But
I mean, if
now
I pull into
you
the-
put Frankenstein, Casey Max, a lot of these chassis cars all together. Now you got to race.
Yeah.
Those guys, it's going to be a dogfight. You put one of those cars in a regular small tire class. If I show up and I'm in small tire and I see, Frankenstein, I'm
pull
like,
up.
well, At least we'll get a couple passes and we'll have some fun, but we ain't winning this thing.
Yeah. You'd be like, oh, well, it'd be at least cool to race Frankenstein.
Exactly. And I've been in situations like that where I line up beside somebody. Like one year at War in the Woods, who did we get? We got Todd Spears, first round.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, I think it was like the first time I went to War in the Woods. I'm like, I'm so screwed. I'm like, all right, well, my all steel, all glass S10, that's literally 3,400 pounds and not just had an LS in it. I'm like, well, we'll give it a go. But yeah, obviously lost. But
Jason Terrell at Tin Soldier, I like what he was saying. He was like, oh, do like a trailer rule. Like, if you show up with a stacker and a toter, you're in a different class.
Different class. You're
Sorry.
in the toter class.
You're in the fast class by default.
No, I think, like I said, it's just the problem is then everyone says that everyone who spent the money and, they're working harder than everybody else to be the fastest. It's not fair that you handicap them. But I don't see that as a handicap. I just like to see the same caliber of cars. But then they're like, well, then we're going to get into like regular small tire junior. But that's already happening.
Yeah.
Look at Jimmy Dale and Poland. They started small tire gangsters or little gangsters.
Yeah.
Now it's NoPrep, but in an index. Like, where are we going with things now? Now we're going to have NoPrep bracket racing. That's technically what it is. I mean, a lot of people like it because it's still 530, and I mean, 530 cars are fast.
Yeah, give somebody a place to race,
Absolutely. But where's the future headed? If that's where we're starting, like, you have two options, in my opinion. We either do that bracket and start capping, or you do what we're doing, and you just move certain cars into certain places.
Yeah.
It's just those people, and again, certain promoters will tell you, well, spectators don't want to see that. Why wouldn't they? You don't want to. Those cars that are coming to Corey's race, I tell you, are not backyard small tire cars. Those are the baddest cars in the country.
Yeah, they're not built in the
and I guarantee you most of them are chassis cars. Mm-hmm. So then why is it a problem when you go to another front side putting those same cars together again? They're like, well, you're splitting up small tire cars. Yes and no. Something needs to be done because eventually the guys who don't have enough money to keep up to that caliber of car aren't going to be able to race anymore. Mm-hmm. And it's happening already. You're starting to see a transition of guys who had pretty badass small tire cars 5 years ago are now changing things in their car to go down classes. They're not going up. They're all trying to put them into True Street, or they're selling their cars and buying chassis cars. Those are the kind of, if you're going to race front side now, you're at a heavy disadvantage to not have a chassis car.
A lot of it, I think, is the money to win in the higher classes being significantly more than the lower classes. So it forces them. It's like, do you want to win money? Well, guess what?
Yeah, look what SRC is doing.
Step up.
They had the Falcon. They had the S10. Two badass street cars, like whatever you want to call them. But they are all steel, all glass, like they used to be. And they were very competitive. They used to dominate all of it. And then slowly, these guys start bringing in these killer cars, X275 cars, and they're getting walked on. So what do? They go out and buy the Nova chassis car. They're building the Camaro chassis car. Because that's the only way you can keep up with the trend now, because it's very hard to compete.
And you have to. And if you're not building a chassis car right now,
you're going to have to in the future. I've looked at them myself. People were making fun of me because I put up a post. I'm a truck guy. I'm never going to drive a Fox body. Like, that's not happening. So I was like, well, I started looking at S10, but chassis trucks, like legit tube trucks and stuff like that. Because, maybe we're going to need something different for the front side stuff, because my truck's just not going to compete. I kept my truck as a True Street truck within True Street trim, only for the fact that we can compete in a lot more classes. So when I go, this is what I like about having a truck and a True Street truck is I can enter in True Street, tailgate, small tire, and what else have we entered in? Some daily driver's classes, because now my turbos are in the bed, so the exhaust is behind the driver. But I don't do that. Not yet.
Yeah, if the opportunity.
If the money's right,
Yeah, if the opportunity's there.
Yeah, but that's why I do that. It's because when we go to these events, I have all the stuff to convert my truck. Like, I have fiberglass doors for it. I have stuff. We could lighten my truck a lot, but I don't want to commit to just small tire, because now I can only race one class wherever we go.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that's a killer class. You could be eliminated first round. The way I do it now is we have so many different classes that sometimes in one event I'll double class, or, I'll run one class on Friday. We even tried 26s at Dig or Die this year. That was a huge fail. But a 26 on an S10 is a very small tire.
Yeah, that probably looked
It
goofy.
looked goofy as shit and made the suspension all wonky. But I tried it
Yeah.
because I'm the kind of person, when I travel somewhere and you travel 12 hours, it takes 12 hours to get from South Florida to Dig or Die in North Carolina. That's how long it takes to drive there. It's basically halfway to Canada, which is kind of weird because it takes 12 hours from Canada to come down there.
Yeah.
When I'm driving that long, I want to be in every class I can possibly be, only for the fact that I just want to race. I don't care if I get eliminated. I drove all that way to make passes in the truck and to get out there and feel the adrenaline of racing. You race yourself. Why do we do this? Is because we enjoy that, whatever it may be, 6 seconds of adrenaline, like being at the line, racing, and you hope to do more passes than one. But at least I'll enter in whatever classes my truck will fit. And that's the only thing that stops me from modifying it any further than it is, because it's versatile. We can enter so many different classes with I'll run what you brought against big tires. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll beat 2 of them. And it's fun because I got 2 extra passes. So,
Well, the 26-inch tire stuff's getting pretty big in radial racing as well. The 235 tire.
I think with a little bit of time on it, like I said, that was the first time I put it on the truck and I stood back and I was like, oh boy, that's a little tire.
Yeah. Well, they have that class. They have a 235 class at Sick Week as well.
Yeah.
It's called Rowdy Radial. It's eighth mile 235s, but the cars are going to be going mid fours, low fours.
Look what Peterbaum did on a 26.
Yeah.
Crazy.
430s,
Yeah,
right?
just like that within a day.
Yeah. But he was on a slick. We're talking radials, too.
I know. That's crazy.
Like these are...
But this is what I mean by the evolution of cars is just nuts now.
Yeah.
Like, what can be done on such little tire? Where are we going to get to? Wood wheels? Like, are we going to try wagon wheels and see who can be the fastest on that?
They used to do some hard tire racing around here. Like, a couple times they did it. But
I tried a hard
evaporated.
tire class. I got 1 or 2 cars always signed up.
So
Barely
weird.
anything. And I like I think hard tire is kind of cool. I mean, it's a pedal fest and a smoke show, but
To me, I thought like a 18-inch wheel and up seems reasonable. Like, because then you let in some of the Hellcats, the CTSVs.
well, that's kind of what we did with our daily class. On our daily class, there was like a 17-inch rim cap or something like that to try to motivate more, and which we do. Like the
But
daily,
17s allow a lot of different tires.
that's true.
18 cuts you to like a real street tire. 17, you can get like some Mickeys and stuff like that still.
Well, I think we have a DOT rule too, so the tire has to be stamped DOT.
Yeah.
Like a lot of our stuff, even True Street. Our True Street class, you have to be on a DOT radial.
Yeah.
So it has to have DOT. Like when we tech it, we always mark it with a white marker where the DOT stamp is. If it doesn't have a DOT, it's not True Street.
But even like the tires I run, the 15-inch 275 Mickeys, they're DOT.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you could run them at our event in True Street.
Yeah. I mean, that's a, once you get to the pro bracket is non-DOT, but the regular is DOT, which is interesting.
It is interesting. There's a lot of weird stuff. Like a 28, 11, 5, 15 QTP is a 28, 10, 5.
Yeah.
They allow it in every 28, 10, 5 because it's actually 28, 10, 5. But it's labeled an 11, 5, which is like tires and tire sizes I never quite understood because there's a lot of weird tires like that say they're bigger than they are, and then people start measuring, and tires have always been a nightmare. But
they did one rules around here where it was radials and 17-inch tires and 17-inch wheels, and the cars went 7s.
Oh, yeah.
Quarter,
I believe it.
Like, instantly. They just were slow out in the hole, and then,
Yeah.
they just fed in power, and it's like, okay.
Well, yeah.
It ruined it immediately. The first race ruined it.
But that's the thing now. I mean, it's fast. Like, cars are fast.
Yeah.
It's just part of the sport now.
There's money to win. Nobody's going to,
What's going to be wild is if anyone actually starts getting into this electric stuff and technology, like in the drag racing world, I think that's going to be scary.
Yeah.
Because the amount of, you can literally put as much power as that tire will take to the minuscule, like without any kind of power management, torque, like electric technology is crazy to me.
Well, it'll be corner-to-corner traction control.
That's what I mean. And like milliseconds to the point that you won't even hear the tire chirp.
Yep. That'll be interesting to see.
That's going to be the next level of like...
And I've talked to a couple people that were like, oh, well, like, you could put it right to a power glide. And I'm like, no. You're not going to put a power glide in like a 4-link.
No.
That would ruin the whole point.
Yeah.
You're going to want corner to corner.
Yeah, a motor on every wheel.
Yeah. Like an RC car.
Yeah.
Like we've all driven RC cars. They're stupid.
And look at the evolution of RC cars. We all had the gas ones, which I loved.
Yeah.
Like fucking flying around with those little exhaust pipes out the side. Yeah. I loved it.
Ruining glow plugs.
And then, those friggin' glow plugs drove me nuts. Trying to start that thing with the little... Anyway, then we went to electric, and then we went to lithium power. And the lithium power electric cars just destroyed those gas ones.
Yeah.
That's the scary thing is what the future is going to bring for drag racing, because we are so fast now with combustion engines. Imagine instant torque. Like an electric, you can't make torque like that out of any kind of gas motor than an electric. It's on and off like a light switch.
Have you ever talked to some of the guys that do the drag racing with the RC cars?
No.
They have big events. Like they do
Well, Corey does some of it. I know he posts some stuff.
There's people that win like $5,000 to $8,000 a weekend.
Oh, really?
I'm like,
I'm in the wrong sport.
They go racing and they win the cost of their vehicle plus some in one race.
Yeah.
Imagine that in drag racing.
Oh, I know.
We're not even close to that like dollar to dollar ratio.
That would be cool.
I'm like, they're winning the full cost of their vehicle in one race.
Yeah.
And that's cool.
That is cool.
And it's awesome. I mean, there's a few guys that do it local and, they're fast.
Like, they're fast for sure.
And it's cool that they do that.
Well, it's going to be like anything, right?
Yeah,
they're just going to get faster and faster. Yeah,
yep.
Carbon fiber, everything.
I was seeing some of the chassis as full carbon fiber. They laser print them. They laser cut them out. Like
you gotta love humans, eh? We always find an advantage. Gray area, like I said.
Exactly.
There's always a gray area.
I know someone teching an RC car sounds funny, and teching the tires,
putting it on the table and flipping it around and shit.
Yeah, weighing it.
That's funny.
But it's great. I mean, good for them. They found a great way to drag race.
I mean, it's still racing technically for a lot less money. I mean, that's great.
It's a bummer to me that they're not incorporated more in our sport. Like we're separate because they could be at the track with us.
They could be.
They don't take up that much space.
No,
they don't even
Most of them don't even have a trailer.
No, you
don't need a stacker for an RC car.
Yeah, you need a bed of your truck or a back seat.
That's pretty much it.
So yeah, it's cool. But good deal, man. We'll wrap this up.
All right.
What can we put in the description? Where can people find these events? More information, more rules, more. Okay. I'll put everything, all the links in. But
awesome. We have a Facebook group. That's where we put all the events, all the rule sets, all the information of upcoming events with like day by day stuff. That's Sinister Performance NoPrep Racing on Facebook. My personal stuff is Sinister Performance Club on Instagram and YouTube. If you want to follow us, we do behind the scenes on most of the NoPrep stuff we do, some shop stuff, like basically just following me around and talking about stuff. And then, that's pretty much it. Mike Corley on Facebook for my personal stuff. And
cool. So if anybody needs to reach out to you somewhat directly to kind of get some more information.
Yeah, you can DM me, whatever, if you have any questions about the NoPrep racing or any of our series. But I mean, honestly, if you follow the Sinister Performance NoPrep Racing group, I am very thorough with posts. I post normally twice a day when events are coming up with all the information you need. If you can't find it on there, I'm very surprised. A lot of people don't even bother looking. They just message me directly and they're like, what time's the gates open? I'm like, I literally put 2 posts of that up last week.
Yep.
But it's fine. It's part of the deal. I get it. Some people just want answers direct without having to look for anything. So it's all good.
I used to work retail and we would put signs everywhere. And
and they still ask you.
You could like hold the sign in front of them and they'll still ask you.
Oh, yeah. That's part of the game. So it's all good. If you want to reach out to me, I'm happy, like I said, to answer. We have this race this weekend, Saturday. Redemption 4 at Immokalee. And then, of course, February 22nd will be North versus South, too. So
good deal.
That is the last race there. So if you want to come out and race with us, you better plan the trip February 22nd.
Well, good deal, man. Thank you so much for coming on, guys. Go check them out. Go check out some Florida NoPrep racing. But that is all. We will see you next time.